Hewlett, Chair of the Prince George's County Planning Board, and the Planning Board is now in session for Thursday, October 29th, 2020. This is our normal Halloween board meeting, but we'll get back to that in a moment. As you can see, we are ready, but this is Halloween light. So in an abundance of caution resulting from the global spread of COVID-19, this is the Planning Board's 26th virtual meeting since March. During these continued challenging times, we remain committed to promoting a safe and healthy environment for our public, for our applicants, for our stakeholders, and our staff as we continue business operations to propel Prince George's County forward. I would like to take a moment to remind everyone of our participation guidelines for our hearings. Speaker pre-registration and pre-submission of exhibits is required. All participants must pre-register and all materials or exhibits must be submitted by 12 noon on the Tuesday before the Planning Board meeting as shown on the screen, as announced in weekly meetings, as posted on our website, and as clearly stated in bold red on our published weekly Planning Board agendas. So Tuesday 12 noon for registration to speak and submitting exhibits. Registered speakers and presenters connecting through a computer, tablet, or smartphone can join the meeting with the link provided via email from the Planning Board office. Online registered participants may be prompted to install GoToMeeting software in order to participate in the process. Registered speakers may also listen or participate in the meeting by using a phone line, and the call-in number was provided in the email. We ask all participants to mute your phones when not speaking, and please do not put your phone on hold. To eliminate audio feedback, only one connected device with sound should be in a room at the same time. Of course, the public may continue to watch Planning Board meetings streamed live, or if you wish to become a person of record, you may sign up on our web form. Please note the screen for instructions. Okay. As always, we commence our Planning Board meetings with a moment of silence for those who have passed on and honor those individuals and loved ones throughout our community and nations who have passed on in the last week. First of all, we want to recognize and remember the ever-growing victims of the widespread coronavirus, COVID-19. We have globally, over approaching 45 million confirmed cases, and over 1 million, approaching 1.2 million deaths. In the United States, we have approximately 232,000 deaths. I mean, this is really tragic, and really, really tragic. And we ask that everyone remain really careful because the numbers are escalating. There is a surge, particularly as the weather starts to get cooler, so we're not outside as much. So we want to remember these victims who have passed on and those who are sick because they are people's loved ones. By now, it has touched almost someone that we know, either you or someone that you know, and many of us have lost loved ones. So we have to be careful. We want to remember Deandra Dixon, who was the sister of former comedian and actor Jamie Foxx. She was an ambassador for Global Down Syndrome Foundation, and she was the first recipient of the Quincy Jones Exceptional Advocacy Award. We want to remember Marge Champion, age 101, actress, dancer, and choreographer who served as the real-life model for Walt Disney's Snow White. William Blinn, who was Emmy-winning screenwriter and producer who worked on Brian's Song, Roots, and co-wrote Purple Rain. Diane DePrima, who was a poet and activist, age 86, one of the prominent voices of the Beat generation during the 1950s, who wrote more than 40 books of poetry and a memoir. Matt Blair, former NFL linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings and 6-time Pro Bowler who played in 2 Super Bowls. Viola Smith, age 107, a pioneering drummer and trailblazer known as the fastest girl drummer in the world. I'm sure she took on a lot of male drummers too. She championed the inclusion of women in music during the swing era. Jerry Jeff Walker, who was a country music singer and songwriter who is known for his enduring composition, Mr. Bojangles, which he sang, but it was made even more famous by Sammy Davis Jr. Tracy Smothers, former professional wrestling star with WWE and WCW. Reginald Brewster, Tuskegee Airman, who died at the age of 103. We are losing all of the brave, immensely talented Tuskegee Airmen who fought valiantly for our country, who were skilled pilots, who really helped our country, though when they came home, they weren't treated right when they came home, could not get loans for their homes, many couldn't get jobs, things of that nature, but they fought valiantly for our country. So we must always remember the Tuskegee Airmen. And of course, we extend our deepest sympathy to any of you who may have suffered the loss of a loved one too. Our hearts go out to you. May we have that moment of silence. Thank you. So again, it's the month of October. We're closing it out. It is Italian American Heritage Month, German American Heritage Month, Polish American Heritage Month, and we celebrate all cultures, all ethnicities, everyone. We are an agency. We are a county of inclusion. So we want to celebrate everyone. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We cannot tolerate domestic violence. We want to shatter the silence. It is Bullying Prevention Month. No matter who's doing the bullying, we will not tolerate it. It is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and we just mentioned Jamie Foxx's sister, Deandra, who was a champion for Down syndrome children. It is AIDS Awareness Month, and it's National Crime Prevention Month, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit more. It is Emotional Wellness Month, and never has that been more important than during these very trying times. It is October 29th. October 29th, some occurrences that took place on this date. In 1942, Branch Rickey, he was famous. Famous Branch Rickey was named president and general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And not long thereafter, he famously recruited and signed Jackie Robinson to the Dodgers, thereby integrating Major League Baseball. In 1942, the Nazis executed 16,000 folks of Jewish heritage, of the Jewish faith in the Soviet Union. 16,000 in one day. Tragic. In 1966, the National Organization for Women, known as NOW, was founded. 1969, in the case of Alexander Holmes County Board of Education in Mississippi, the Supreme Court ordered an end to school segregation, and the term they used was at once. Mind you, this was 15 years after the Brown versus Board of Education case that called for an end to school segregation with all deliberate speed. So one said at once, and the other said with all deliberate speed, and it's really interesting to see what these mean to some people, because it took 15 years later to get to at once. In 1974, the law was changed to ban credit application discrimination on the basis of sex or marital status. And in 1998, the Space Shuttle Discovery blasted off with an old friend on board. 77-year-old veteran astronaut and sitting U.S. Senator John Glenn, he became the oldest person to be launched into space. So just goes to show you that sometimes veteran 77-year-olds still got it. We also have a couple other announcements. The Planning Department is holding their Bowie, Mitchellville, and Vicinity Master Plan Playbook of Strategies on November the 12th at 7 p.m. Please view the slide on the screen for online registration address. The project team will share urban design tools, techniques, and recommendations and strategies to help meet the challenges and opportunities at several key locations in the plan area for Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity. More details can be found at pgplanning.org. The Prince George's County Council and Planning Board will hold a virtual joint public hearing on Thursday, November 19th at 5 p.m. This will be to solicit comments from the public on the countywide map amendment. The countywide map amendment is the second phase of the zoning ordinance rewrite project. Please see the slide links for speaker registration and more details. Now, the voting. There are 5 more days to vote. There is no excuse for anyone not voting. You can vote, well, you could have voted by mail. It's a little bit too late now because it may not get there in time. We have 42 drop boxes in Prince George's County for your convenience. And you can also vote in person during early voting up until November 2nd, and then there's actual election day, November 3rd. I will tell you the lines are long, long, long. We're trying to help find a way to not have seniors and persons with disabilities standing in these lines so very long, but you can still use those drop boxes. So 5 more days, and many were hung, beaten, had fire hoses and dogs sicked on them, billy clubs and cattle prods used on them. Many lost their lives. Please don't forget to vote. Finally, we want to say happy Halloween to everyone. And what I want to say about that is it is Emotional Wellness Month also. And during these very, very trying times, it's really rough on us, and we have to remain hopeful, and we have to find some source of ways to lift our spirits. And one of the things that we do, which we have actually always done, is to celebrate Halloween. But I don't want anyone to get it twisted. We take our work extremely seriously. But as this pandemic has reinforced, life is short, and it is most definitely very tenuous. So we have to seize life along the way, because we just never know. So we have to have fun along the way as we take care of business. So please know that we are going to have just a tad bit of fun. This is our Halloween light during the pandemic, but we do want to celebrate Happy Halloween, but we are going to take care of business. Okay, Ryan? Oh, excuse me. Okay, Kenny? And Ryan, where's Ryan? With our. So these are examples of our Halloween from yesteryear, and they're indicative of the fun we have along the way with the best team in the world. And they're just beautiful. And I love the spirit and the camaraderie and the good nature and everything that our team has to offer. And the same applies to each and every one of you who are participating virtually and who attend our hearings. So we're very thankful for that. So I just wanted to show that briefly. Thank you. And finally, we thank you and appreciate each and every one of you for your flexibility, your cooperation, and support as we continue to keep our planning functions moving forward in a safe fashion during our now not so new normal. It is not easy, but our team has risen to the occasion, and each of you in our viewing public has risen to the occasion too. Our participants have risen to the occasion too. So we are thankful to each and every one of you for working with us as we had to adapt in this new environment. We ask that you make every effort to stay safe, to look out for one another, to stay strong, to stay resilient, to stay woke, and most of all, remain ever hopeful as we strive to get through these challenging times together. Thank you. With that, I want to say a special happy birthday to Tasha. Tasha's in the planning, the chairman's office. She rocks it. She takes care of a lot of business for us, and has and works with me tremendously too. And so we want to say happy birthday to Tasha. Can I hear the board?
Happy birthday, Tasha.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So, okay, so let's get started with our agenda. Let me just say, we have the commissioners present here. We have our amazing Madam Vice Chair, Dorothy Bailey. We have our fabulous Commissioner Shanice Washington.
Present.
We have our awesome Commissioner Manny Giraldo.
Happy Anonymous.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, and we have our rocking. Where'd he go? Rocking. Well, see, are you Batman? I probably got my
Bat Boy.
Bat Boy. Okay. rocking that boy, Commissioner Will Dorner.
Catboy.
Oh, Catboy, I knew
Meow.
that. I knew that. I'm sorry, meow, Catboy. Okay. And you know what? This is the month of the cat too. I just didn't say that because I don't like cats. But anyway, and then I'm all into the dogs though. And then we have our principal counsel with us. Okay, as you can see, David Warner. Okay, you'll have to explain that, David. Okay. Present with us here today, we have our planning director with us, Andre Checkley. We have our technical hearing writer, Marie Proctor, who's rocking it here. We have our senior planning technician, Kenny Flanagan. We have our Ryan Cron, our visual media specialist. And we have James Hunt, Chief of Development Review. So with that, I'm going to call for item 2, which is the draft minutes from October 22nd. Is there a motion?
Move approval, Madam Chair. Second?
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Washington, seconded by Vice Chair Bailey. Vice Chair Bailey?
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Giraldo?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it 5-0. We have items, the consent agenda, item 4A, 4B, and 4D, draft resolutions and a final plat of subdivision. There's no one signed up on this. Is there a motion?
Move approval, Madam Chair, of items 4A, 4B, and 4D on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second?
Motion by Vice Chair Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Washington. Vice Chair Bailey?
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Vote aye.
The ayes have it 5-0. The next case we will hear is item 5, which is detailed site plan 20006. It's the Checkers and Laurel. Mr. Bossi, are you on?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chairwoman.
Good morning. Mr. Tedesco, are you on?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm on.
Did you see yourself in the pictures from yesteryear? Okay.
I did, and I'm very sad that we're not all there together and celebrating as we normally do. And as you know, my son greatly enjoys this hearing in particular. So it's
You could have
glad to
improvised. You could have improvised, but okay. That's true.
I'm doing my best to dress up as Rob Antonetti today. So.
Oh, okay. All righty then. I'm going to leave that alone. Okay, let's see who else we got. Robert Noeth. Are you present?
I'm present, Madam Chair.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. And Wayne Newton?
I'm present.
Thank you. Keith Martin? I don't see him. Keith Martin?
Madam Chair, he's my client. I don't know if he's on or not. He might be on by phone, but he's.
But we
he's
have a
with
number
us.
of callers, so can you unmute those callers? And let's see. Okay, hold on a second. Keith Martin, are you on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're good. That concludes the sign-up list for today. We also have one exhibit, applicant's exhibit number 1, which are proposed revised conditions. Mr. Bossi, let's take off.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman
Good
and
morning.
members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Adam Bossi with the Urban Design Section. This is item 5, a detailed site plan, DSP 20006, which proposes the development of a Checkers brand eating and drinking establishment with drive-through service. As I begin the presentation, I would like to reiterate a point that you already made. The applicant did submit a single exhibit into the record prior to Tuesday's deadline. This exhibit does propose a revision to one of the conditions of approval, which are recommended in the staff report pertaining to freestanding signage. So I'll address that a little bit later on in the presentation. If we could move on to slide 2, please. The subject property is in Planning Area 62, Council District 1. Next slide, please. Outlined in red, the 0.84 acre property is irregularly shaped and located on the east side of Baltimore Avenue, approximately 400 feet north of its intersection with Mulberry Street. Slide 4, please. The property includes land in 2 zones. Most of the site, including its frontage on Baltimore Avenue, is within the commercial shopping center zone, shown here in red. And the far eastern portion of the site, fronting on Magnolia Street, is in the one-family detached residential zone, shown in yellow. That's the R55 zone. Land shown in white to the west of the subject site, on the opposite side of Baltimore Avenue, is land within the city of Laurel. Slide 5, please. As shown here in this aerial image, the subject site is currently vacant. The portion of the site that is closest to Baltimore Avenue is surfaced with asphalt, and there is an area of small trees existing on the far eastern edge of the property. This site was previously home to an eating and drinking establishment known as the Bay and Surf Restaurant, which was removed and structure demolished several years ago. Slide 6, please. The topographic map here shows us that the site is generally flat. Slide 7, please. And we see Baltimore Avenue shown here in red, which is classified as an arterial roadway and abutting the west side of the property. Slide 8, please. As shown here on the detailed site plan, again, we see Baltimore Avenue on the far left. That's the western side of the site. With the shared access driveway located between the proposed Checkers to the south and an existing medical clinic to the north. Parking for the Checkers restaurant is provided in spaces along this shared access driveway. Circled in red on the west side of the site is the single freestanding sign that is proposed for this project. And again, this sign is the subject of Condition 1C, which requires modifications of the sign prior to certification of the detailed site plan. The applicant did propose language to adjust this condition in their exhibit, and staff has reviewed this requested language change for Condition 1C and has no issue with the proposed revision. Looking toward the central portion of the site, we do see that there are 2 outdoor dining areas provided to the northwest and directly east of the Checkers building. The building itself does have double drive-throughs, one to the north and one to the south side of the building, respectively. Trash enclosure and other associated site features with this development are all proposed in the CSC zone portion of the site. A stormwater management facility and plantings are proposed in the eastern R55 zone portion of the site. It should also be noted that there are no regulated environmental features associated with the site, and the site is not subject to the Woodland and Wildlife Habitat Conservation Ordinance because it's less than 40,000 square feet in size and contains less than 10,000 square feet of existing woodland. Slide 9, please. Landscaping has been provided for the project in conformance with the requirements of the landscape manual, subject to a minor correction as noted in finding 9 of the technical staff report. Slide 10, please. These images show the design of the proposed building, which will serve food for takeout only. This is to walk-up diners as well as through the drive-thrus. The single-story structure has a gross floor area of 1,170 square feet and will include, again, the 2 drive-through service areas with covered canopies on the north and south side of the building, respectively. The building itself is mainly white in color and accented with red columns and black and white checkerboard patterns. Slide 11, please. Building-mounted signage and a freestanding sign with a digital reader board are proposed, as mentioned before. Staff found that the building-mounted signage conforms with the applicable requirements of the ordinance, but again, the freestanding sign does require some modifications to conform. Specific updates to the freestanding sign design and associated area calculations were found necessary, and these were discussed with the applicant, which did prompt the submission of applicant's Exhibit 1 requesting that adjustment to the language of Condition 1C. Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board, through our review, staff has found that the development of the proposed Checkers eating and drinking establishment with drive-through service, as proposed by DSP 20006, conforms with the applicable requirements of the zoning ordinance, subject to the conditions contained in the technical staff report, with Condition 1C as amended by the applicant's exhibit. Again, staff does agree with the applicant's requested change to Condition 1C, and I'm pleased to recommend that the board does approve this DSP. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Nice landing, Mr. Bassi. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's see if the board has any questions of you. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington?
No questions.
Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner?
I just want to know, is this going to fit through the drive-through?
That is too cute.
Walk up.
Stop stealing Enrique's toys, okay? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Tedesco, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Matthew Tedesco with the law firm of Matthew Hosey, on behalf of the applicant, Marcheck Incorporated. Commissioner Dorner, I will be showing this video to Graham later today because he and Grace both love PJ Masks. So well done on your costume this year, as last year was well done as well. So, yes, thank you, Mr. Bassi, for the great presentation for the staff report. We really don't have a whole lot more to say. I think the staff report speaks for itself. We would incorporate and adopt as further testimony to say that staff report. We had one minor change to it. A couple of highlights we just want to mention. This property was rezoned through a zoning map amendment in 1996, the conditions of which are outlined in finding 8, all of which have been met with this application. Also, a highlight of this, as Mr. Bassi indicated, all landscape manual requirements have been met. There is no alternative compliance, no departures or variances being requested. Also, another high point is the respect to the TCC, the tree canopy coverage. It's more than doubled on this site, although it's a very small site. The development itself has accommodated a significant amount of landscaping and buffering, primarily for the residential units to the east and south and east. So we don't anticipate any negative impacts, I think represented by the fact there is no opposition for this case as well. We did have one minor modification to condition 1C that Mr. Bassi represented. We worked very closely with staff. I want to thank staff, as we always do, but particularly with this case, just working through some of the issues, particularly with the signage. We're in agreement with those revisions that are needed to comply with the code requirements and have modified the condition to reflect that. With me is Mr. Keith Martin from Marcheck, as well as Wayne Newton, Bob Noeth from the Mezig Group. Simply here to answer any questions that you all may have, but we're happy to submit on the staff report as well as the applicant's Exhibit 1 and respectfully request your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. So let's see if the board has any questions of you, or Mr. North, or Mr. Newton, or Mr. Martin. Madam Vice Chair.
No questions.
Commissioner Washington.
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner.
No questions.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I have none.
Okay. So, all right, that's it. So if there are no questions, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve DSP-20006 along with the associated conditions as outlined in staff's report and is further amended by applicant exhibit number 1.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Vice Chair Bailey. Madam Vice Chair?
Will I?
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So the
I
next,
have a question.
yes,
I didn't see anything. I didn't see Mr. Tedesco wearing anything.
yeah, that's what we mentioned that, but you'll have to speak to him offline. Okay.
So we'll make it up next year, I promise.
I think that's.
You want to go in too.
I think that's.
I should have called you beforehand. I would have taken you up on that, Commissioner Dorner.
He was slick with his breadwinner at one time. Okay.
I don't think I can ever top that one, so I'm just going to hang on to the breadwinner costume for as long as I can, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Absolutely. We want to engage our folks along the way. Okay, so the next item is item 6, which is preliminary plan of subdivision 4-19049, Parliament Place. Now you know I'm biting my tongue on that one. Okay, you hear that, George? So let me do a check to make sure we have everyone. Mr. Heath,
Present.
Mr. Lynch,
Present.
Mr. Bickle.
Present.
Okay, we're having feedback, so there's too many mics on somewhere. And Ed Gosselin.
Present.
That concludes my list. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Well, now we muted him, I guess. You got muted, so you can't even answer my question. Mr. Gosselin, did I pronounce your name correctly? Okay, thank you. Mr. Heath, you were on.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, I'm Antoine Heath with the Subdivision and Zoning section. The project before you is preliminary plan of subdivision for Parliament Place, 4-19049. The subject property is the site of an existing office building on one parcel, which is to be subdivided into 3 parcels for the development of an additional 100,000 square foot office building and a 134,000 square foot consolidated storage facility on 11.72 acres. Next slide, please. The site is located in central Prince George's County within Planning Area 70 and Council District 5. Next slide, please. More specifically, the site is located on Parliament Place and abuts John Hanson Highway to the south and Martin Luther King Jr. Highway to the west. Next slide, please. The subject site is located within the I-1 Light Industrial Zone. It's bounded to the north and east by properties who share the same zone. The adjacent zones are the I-2 Heavy Industrial to the north and RR Rural Residential and R80 One Family Detached Residential to the south. Next slide, please. The aerial photograph shows the site in its current condition, the abutting properties to the north and east, as well as the adjacent properties, which are mostly light industrial. Next slide, please. The site map shows the topography, which is generally flat. Next slide, please. The master plan right-of-way map shows Freeway US 50 to the south, Arterial Road, Martin Luther King Jr. Highway to the west, and Collector Road, Forbes Boulevard to the east. Next slide, please. The critical intersections are identified in this slide and is further detailed in the staff report on page 8, were analyzed and will operate at adequate levels. Next slide, please. The preliminary plan of subdivision provides the current site conditions, the existing office building to remain, and the 3 parcels being proposed. The site is accessed from Parliament Place to the north. Adequate public facilities, including police, water, fire, and sewer facilities, are available to serve the subject site. Next slide, please. The site does not have direct vehicular access to the abutting public roads and will be accessed via an existing access easement to the north highlighted in red. The easement will be extended to the 3 proposed parcels. Next slide, please. The applicant has requested a variance from section 25-122B1G for the removal of 4 specimen trees, X'd out in red. Staff recommends disapproval of the variance as additional measures can be taken to save the 4 trees, as well as the understanding that the applicant can apply again at the time of detailed site plan. Next slide, please. The applicant submitted truck turning exhibit showing that there is adequate space for commercial vehicles to maneuver on site. Staff recommends that the planning board adopt the findings and approve preliminary plan of subdivision 4-19049 and disapprove variance request 25-122B1G, subject to the 15 conditions in the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Let's see if the board has any questions of you at this time. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Washington?
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lynch?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Dan Lynch with the law firm of McNamee Cozy, here on
Morning.
behalf of the applicant, Parliament Place LLC. I also have with me today Mr. Ed Gosling, who's here on behalf of the applicant, as well as Dave Bickle, who is here as our civil engineer. I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Heath for working with us on this project, as well as his presentation here today. I'd also just like to note, as indicated in Mr. Heath's presentation, that they are recommending denial of our variance, but as part of our detailed site plan package, we have resubmitted that, and we believe that'll be addressed during the detailed site plan phase of this project. With that, we are in concurrence with the staff recommendation on this preliminary plan. We have reviewed the conditions of approval and are in concurrence with those conditions. And both myself, Mr. Gosling, as well as Mr. Bickle are here to answer any questions this board has. I therefore conclude by just requesting this board's support for this application for preliminary plan of subdivision for Parliament Place. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lynch. Okay. So I don't know what's up with that law firm, but we're going to talk to you and Mr. Tedesco later. But okay. So Mr. Bickle and they're just here for any questions. Mr. Gosling, here if there are any questions, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Madam Vice Chair,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Dorner,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Giraldo.
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve preliminary plan 4-19049, TCP 1-015-2020, along with the associated conditions as outlined in staff's report, in addition to disapproving variance to section 25-122B1G.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Commissioner Dorner. Was that you, Dorner?
No, that's wrong.
Commissioner Giraldo? Okay, thank you. Madam Vice Chair?
But aye.
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
But aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Thank you. I thought about that for Parliament Place. I'm just saying. Okay. Okay. Big George is enjoying that. Okay. Item 7. Let's go to preliminary plan 4-20006, which is Freeway Airport. We Mr. Diaz-Campbell, are you speaking, or is Mr. Hunt? Mr. Diaz-Campbell? Well, no, before you speak, let me check and make sure we have everyone we need. So, Mr. Diaz-Campbell, you're on, right? Present. Mr. Ferrante?
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roud? Andrew Roud, are you on? Okay. Jennifer Hearn? Okay, so unmute the telephone folks. Okay, Mr. Roud, are you on? Okay, so too many people are having conversations and we can hear you, so... Okay. Andrew Roud, are you on? Jennifer Hearn? Ken Finley? Rachel Leitzinger?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
you're
I'm
on. Adam Blau? Or, did I pronounce it correctly? Probably not. Mike Lenhart?
Did you say Adam Levi?
No, I did not.
Okay.
This Adam is from Dewberry?
Yeah,
No, that's
Adam,
somebody else.
And that's
Adam Blau is from Dewberry. He's not on.
Okay, Adam Blau, okay. So Mike Lenhart's not on. Gary Ehrlich? Kim Rodenhauser? Okay, I'm gonna go to the other folks signed up. Beverly Simmons?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Carol Boyer?
Here.
Wonderful. Millie Hall?
Here.
Wonderful. Kathleen Barris?
Yes.
Did I pronounce it correctly? No?
Close enough. It's good beers.
Beers, okay, thank
You
you.
did well.
Okay, thank you. Miller Einsel?
Present.
Did I do that correctly?
Yes.
That was perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, James Riley? No, James Riley, you see the name? Or unmute the callers?
I'm present.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Okay. Eric Apokwa? I know I messed that up. You're on, right? I see the name there, but I'm not hearing anything.
It's
Okay.
actually a fuqua.
Okay, I was going to ask the next thing. A Fuqua. Okay. 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 A Fuqua. Okay. And now I'm getting to Adam Levi.
Present.
Okay, wonderful. Michael Bridges?
Present.
Okay, that concludes the sign-up list. We have a number of exhibits, but I'm going to turn to Mr. Diaz-Campbell.
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Eddie Diaz-Campbell with the Subdivision and Zoning Section, for the record. We have received a request for continuance from the applicant in this case. They are requesting a new date of November 5. We are not opposed, staff is not opposed to the continuance request.
Okay. Thank you. So is Mr. Ferrante on? Mr. Ferrante, are you prepared to just give us a snippet about the request for continuance?
Yes, ma'am. This is, for the record, John Ferrante with the law offices of Shipley and Horn with offices in Largo. We'd like to take this additional week to submit and prepare exhibits and work with staff on 2 conditions related in the staff report.
Okay, let me see if the well, I don't know if the board has any questions. Okay, so I need to go, all the people I just called, I just want to confirm. I will tell you honestly, given our schedule today versus our schedule next week, it kind of works out better, but I'm going to see what citizens have to say. So your team is completely okay with that, Mr. Ferrante?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go to the Beverly Simmons. Are you okay with the 1-week continuance?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I am not okay with it.
Okay. Okay. Somebody's phone is ringing, and you know, understand we may or may not do it, but we just need to know. Carol Boyer?
No, I am not
Okay.
approving that.
Are you not available?
I'm not available.
Oh, okay. Millie Hall?
No, I'm not okay with that.
Okay. Kathleen Beers?
No, I'm not available either.
Okay. Miller Einsel?
I'm not, I'm against that.
Okay. James Riley? James Riley? There, I see you.
Yes, I'm against that.
Okay. Eric Afukwa? Is he on one of the phone lines? You have to unmute the phone lines at least. Oh no, he wasn't a phone line. Unmute everybody. Eric Afukwa? Okay, well, there he is. Okay. We don't hear anything. I'll come back. Adam Levi?
Not opposed.
Okay, you're not opposed. Okay, Michael Bridges?
I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn now to the board because I need to see what's the pleasure of the board. We do have a heftier agenda this week than next, but let's see what's the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Washington, I would like to move that we support the continuance to November 5th, appreciating that the applicant would like to work with staff on a few additional conditions. And it seems that our citizenry would benefit from an additional week and perhaps maybe hearing from the applicant as well. So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I don't know if Commissioner Washington would accept an amendment to that. I think we should reach out to the residents that are here to see if they cannot make it next week, if it's possible to select another week that would be amenable to them.
Was there a
There are
second?
time limits. I asked if there was a second. We can't have a discussion without a second. Is there a second?
Second, Bailey.
Okay, thank you. Under parliamentary rules, you have to have a second first. Let me do this for a second because we know we have a preliminary plan deadline. So next week is the last day in the statutory 70 days for the approval of the preliminary plan. So that's part one. Part two is the good thing is that in this COVID environment, luckily people didn't traipse down here to the county administration building and then have travel time and have to go home. So that's one good thing. My question to Mr. Ferrante is, well, I guess it's not a question because we're in the middle of a motion, but my hope, Mr. Ferrante, is that if you're working with staff on conditions and whatnot, whatever it is that you're working on, make sure it's shared. Information is shared with the citizens so that they are not caught off guard, and that everybody gets the benefit of fine-tuning these conditions, and then hopefully it inures to their benefit as well. But information must be shared, and hopefully it makes this your submission a better submission. Mr. Ferrante, are you hearing that?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, your message is understood and clear, and we will certainly share that information with citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that is absolutely the spirit of my motion. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Mr. Warner, are you trying to say something? We're good, Mr. Warner. Do you need to say something?
I did want to advise the board that it's also permissible for anyone who cannot attend the hearing next week that they're able to submit written comments. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Mr. Warner. We're good. And you can submit any comments in writing up until the Tuesday before, 12 noon on the Tuesday before. So that would be good as. Right, and everything that we already have, we have all the exhibits already that have been submitted, and believe me, we have a lot. But all of those will remain in the record. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for the vote. Madam Vice Chair?
Can we have discussion, Madam Chair?
Okay, who's asking that? Okay.
I was asking for discussion.
Okay.
I understand the time limits, but we have several residents that want to express their opinions, and granted they could do it in writing, but I always find it more effective if it's in person. So I was wondering whether or not the applicant would agree to extend the timeline. That's all.
Okay.
And find out what day would be available to the citizens.
So that's
independent.
Yeah. Well, let's see how this motion goes first, and if that can be a substitute motion, because we can't. That can be a substitute motion if this motion fails, because right now we're under parliamentary procedure. We have this motion on the floor.
I understand, Madam.
Okay.
It's just discussion.
Okay. Okay. Madam Vice Chair.
I did vote aye.
Oh, you did. Okay, I'm sorry. And Commissioner Washington, you voted aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote no.
Okay. Commissioner Dorner.
I'm going to vote no, and I would like the question to go to the applicant that Commissioner Geraldo has raised.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I vote aye. The ayes have it. Okay. We can look again. When this arose, the applicant did let the citizens know, and we looked at our calendars, and it did pose some problems, just so you know. Okay. So the ayes have it, 3-2. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes? Yes?
Do we have to, I'm one of the concerned citizens, this is Kathleen. Do we have to resubmit?
No.
Again for?
No,
Tuesday?
thank you for asking that question, and no, you do not. You are, let me just make sure I'm really clear, you all are already registered to speak, and I'm making sure everyone here knows that they're registered to speak. They don't have to sign up again because it's being continued, and every submission that you have in the record, and believe me, we have a lot, is already in the record, so you don't have to resubmit anything. Okay?
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. This is Miller.
Okay.
Can we submit new?
Yes. Yes.
We can.
Yes, up until 12 noon on Tuesday. Yes, you
very
can.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
One last question. Thank you. My name is Beverly Simmons. Are we allowed to see what is submitted from everyone?
It's online. We post things online. That's one of the reasons we have to have a cutoff deadline, so that, because the board is not here, and the citizens are not here, so normally we would try to make sure everyone has access, so we post it online. So what has been submitted already is listed as additional backup. Okay, somebody's mic is on. So what we have it's all online, so you can look at it that way.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I have one more question.
Okay.
Can you describe next week what the timeline provisions will be for speakers?
Let me just say this. Much to the chagrin of many, I do not impose a time limit on speakers. So you're not limited to 3 minutes or something like that. But we do strongly encourage several things. I strongly encourage people to not be overly repetitive. Each individual speaker cannot be overly repetitive, and any other speaker whose testimony is similar to a previous speaker, they can adopt the previous speaker testimony if they so choose, or enhance it if they so choose. But I don't impose the strict deadlines, because I know the applicant has more time to present his or her case, and in all fairness, I think the citizens should have time to prepare their cases as well. Thank you. So it's not a limit, but we do ask you to be not unduly repetitive, because it gets to a point where I may have to cut people off, because we have other cases as well, and so we want everyone in all the cases to be heard. So, thank you. All right. Okay. With that, I'm going to go to the next case, which is. Darcy Bailey. Okay, so now I lost my little list here. Okay. The next is item 8, which is detailed site plan 19045 Royal Farms Greenbelt. Let me make sure I have everyone here. Mr. Bossi.
Present, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, Mr. Haller.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Mr. Guckert.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Alter.
Yes, ma'am.
Here. Okay, wonderful. Ed Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
Glenn Cook. Okay, you got to cover it. You got to cover it, Mr. Guckert. I guess so.
I do.
Okay. Okay, George Warholic. I probably didn't get that right. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay, people need to mute. Did I pronounce it correctly? All right, we'll come back to that. Molly Porter,
Present.
Terry Ruby,
Yes, present, thank you.
okay, Todd Pounds, Todd Pounds.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I'm here, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Mayor Byrd? I don't see Mayor Byrd unless he's one of the callers. Can you unmute the callers? Mayor
I see
Byrd?
what you mean.
Mayor Byrd? Okay. Susan Walker? Susan Walker?
Susan Walker, Susan Walker's present.
Wonderful, thank you. Macy Nelson?
Present.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
need to interpret.
Okay, Larry Green?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Ruth Grover?
Present, Madam Chair.
Okay, wonderful. Bill Orleans?
Here.
Okay, wonderful. That concludes my sign-up list. We have a number of exhibits, but you know, there's, we have them all. We have the applicant's exhibits and attachments A through M, and then we have additional exhibits from Susan Walker, and we have additional exhibits from Macy Nelson, and I think that's it. Okay. And I think Mr. Nelson's exhibits go through G. No, that's not right. Oh no, his go up to 8, I think. Okay, so, Mr. Bossi, you are on.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Adam Bossi with the Urban Design Section. In this case is item 8. It's a detailed site plan, DSP 19045, which proposes the development of a Royal Farms food and beverage store, a gas station, and a commercial building. This hearing was previously continued from the board's September 24th and October 15th agenda dates. The first continuance allowed for the City of Greenbelt City Council to enter their decision and recommendation on the DSP into the board's record. The City Council did vote to disapprove the project and included 14 recommended conditions with their decision should the board choose to approve the DSP that they would like you to consider. The city's decision, as well as materials submitted by the applicant and opponents of the case, were entered into the record prior to your last hearing on October 15th. The second continuance of October 15th allowed for staff to make clarifications to the technical staff report. Staff's memo of proposed clarifications, along with 2 supporting exhibits, were entered into the record for this case prior to Tuesday's deadline this week. As you mentioned, a second round of additional exhibits were also received earlier this week and added to the record from Mr. Haller on behalf of the applicant, from Mr. Nelson, and from Ms. Walker. With those updates noted, I will begin the presentation. So if we could move on to slide 2, please. This subject property is located in Planning Area 67, Council District 4. Slide 3, please. Outlined in red, the property is located on the north side of Greenbelt Road, approximately 635 feet east of its intersection with Walker Drive. The site and area of existing development the site and the area of existing development around it that are bounded by Kenilworth Ave, the Capitol Beltway, and Greenbelt Road is known as the Golden Triangle. Slide 4, please. The subject site is in the commercial office zone, that's the CO zone. To the east of the subject site are several small lots, also zone CO, which are associated with the Capitol Beltway and with a Pepco utility structure. To the south of the site, across Greenbelt Road, is Greenbelt Park, operated by the National Park Service, shown in green, and this is in the reserved open space zone. To the west and north are properties in the commercial shopping center and commercial miscellaneous zones. Slide 5, please.
It doesn't matter.
Greenbelt Road abuts the south side of the subject site and is shown in red. This road is classified as an arterial roadway. And just to the east of the site, but not abutting it, is the Capitol Beltway shown in orange, which is classified as a freeway. Slide 6, please. This aerial image shows the existing site, again outlined in red. The northern portion of it is developed with a gravel parking area, and remainder of the site is undeveloped. The building shown to the east of the site is a small Pepco structure, and to the north and west of the site is the Capitol Cadillac car dealership. Adjacent to the southwest corner of the site is Capitol Drive, and that is a small roadway that connects Greenbelt Road and Walker Drive. Slide 7, please. As shown here on the topographic map, the site does generally slope from a high point at its northeast corner down to the southwest. So generally sloping from the high side on the Beltway toward a low point adjacent to the intersection of Greenbelt Road and Capitol Drive. Slide 8, please. This aerial image does provide a nice view of the existing condition of the site and adjacent area. Again, we see the gravel parking area utilized for storage in the northern portion of the site, with most of the remainder of the site currently wooded. The site is the subject of a preliminary plan of subdivision, that is 4-75259, which was approved in the 1970s. There was also a formally approved detailed site plan, DSP 05038, which approved for a planned expansion of the adjacent automobile dealership that ended up not occurring. DSP 05038 subsequently did expire, and the current DSP proposes a new development scheme for the site. Slide 9, please. This illustrative plan provides a clear overview of the development proposed for the site. Moving from west to east, that's again looking from the left side of the slide, moving to the right, we see that 2 access points are provided to the site from Capitol Drive. The southern driveway will provide ingress only, and a larger northern driveway was designed to provide ingress and egress. I do want to point out here with this driveway access that the applicant has since proffered to revise this design to provide for a single point of connection to Capitol Drive, and moving the lower driveway, as we see here, to connect internally within the site rather than to a separate point along Capitol Drive. This change is outlined in the applicant's recent exhibit as Exhibit G, which is on page 54 of their backup material dated October 27th. Staff has reviewed this design change and an associated condition that was provided to accompany it, and staff does find those acceptable. Staff's memorandum dated October 22nd recommends the inclusion of new condition 5, which would require the change in driveway design be reflected prior to certification of the detailed site plan, should it be approved. Looking more toward the interior of the site, the gray rectangle represents the gas station canopy with 4 fuel dispensing stations. North of this is the 4,649 square foot Royal Farms food and beverage store shown in a red color. A separate 4,368 square foot commercial building is shown on the east side of the site, also in a red color. Parking is provided proximate to each building and to the south of the gas station canopy. In the southeast corner of the site, shown as a series of gray squares, are foundations and associated remains of the Token Castle, which was designated a county historic site by the Historic Preservation Commission on September 15th of this year. The DSP provides for the historic site to be delineated with wooden fencing and highlighted with interpretive signage. Slide 10, please. So the applicant did provide a truck turning exhibit, which allowed staff a better view to look at circulation here on the site. We do see the exhibit helps illustrate that the layout does provide for adequate maneuvering space for trucks servicing both buildings and the gas station. Based on this exhibit, staff did find that circulation is adequately accommodated by the DSP. In discussing the change to a single driveway access, we do not believe that that will have a major change in on-site circulation. Slide 11, please. Adequate landscaping has been provided throughout the site in conformance with the requirements of the Prince George's County Landscape Manual, as noted in Finding 9, which is on page 11 of the technical staff report. Slide 12, please. The Type 2 tree conservation plan filed with the DSP shows a total of 2.68 acres of existing woodland on the net tract. The site has a woodland conservation threshold of 15% of the net tract, which is 0.61 acres. The TCP2 shows that a total woodland conservation requirement of 1.74 acres, with the requirement being met with 0.61 acres of on-site afforestation, reforestation, and 1.13 acres of off-site woodland conservation credits. Slide 13, please. The proposed Royal Farms building is a single-story structure. Shown here is the southern elevation of the building, which would face the gas station in Greenbelt Road. It includes a gable-covered main entrance with a height of approximately 32.5 feet, and that's topped with a decorative cupola that extends the height to approximately 38.5 feet. Slide 14, please. The remaining facades of the Royal Farms building are faced with a combination of beige cementitious siding and brick and stone veneers. The second rear entrance to the building is shown on its northern facade. That's on the top image here. Next slide, please. The gas station canopy has been designed to include materials and colors that are complementary to the Royal Farms building. On the top of the slide, we also see the site's the detail for the site's trash enclosure, of which 2 are provided, 1 for each building. Slide 16, please. The proposed 4,368 square foot commercial building is also shown as a single-story rectangular structure. This one is oriented perpendicular to Greenbelt Road. It's 18 feet in height with a raised parapet height of 20 feet at the building's southwest corner, which coincides with its entrance. Larger windows and wood-toned cement panels are also used in this corner of the building to further emphasize the entrance. Ample fenestration is provided on the western and southern facades of the building. And facades on all sides are proposed to be clad with brick veneer and cement panel siding in tones of gray. Slide 17, please. The DSP also provides for signage for the Royal Farms commercial building and gas station canopy, as well as 2 freestanding signs, one along Greenbelt Road and another along Capitol Drive. Originally, this departure was filed with this application with the City of Greenbelt seeking a larger signage area. Those departure plans were subsequently withdrawn and the DSP revised so that the signs do conform with the applicable requirements of the ordinance. As I move toward concluding this presentation, I would like to request that slide 9, the illustrative site plan, be brought back up for display. So Madam Chair, members of the board, staff has reviewed the materials submitted by the City of Greenbelt, the applicant and opponents of the DSP, and we do thank them for these thoughtful contributions. In regard to the City of Greenbelt's opposition and recommended conditions of approval as provided in their letter dated October 12th, staff believes many of the issues raised fall outside of the scope of the zoning ordinance or outside of the area subject to this detailed site plan. However, of the 14 city requested conditions, staff is recommending 4 be adopted into conditions of approval. And we also believe that one of the city's requested conditions is already addressed through an existing condition staff has provided. So ultimately that means staff does agree with 5 of the 4 city recommended.
Mr. Bossi, I'm looking at I poured over the City of Greenbelt's letter dated October the 12th, and I'm on pages 46 and 47 of our backup. And then, well, actually, in 48 and 49 have the proposed conditions. The city has definitely made their position in opposition clear, but they're saying, as you said, if we decide to go forward, these are their proposed conditions. Which of the 5 are you referring to? Which is the...
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. So the specific conditions from the city that we support are number 1,
okay,
which is very similar to existing condition 1B
okay,
in the staff report.
Okay.
And we are also supporting conditions 3, 4, 7, and 11.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Actually, I pass by that way an awful lot, so I think, I see some of them pertain to sustainability, and I understand the single driveway site. As a matter of fact, the Park and Planning has a site right there on Walker Mill. So, I mean, excuse me, not on Walker Drive. So 11 is really good. That signage would be helpful. And I had planned to address the city's letter because though, well, I'll address the letter later. It's carefully written, but many of the concerns raised are outside the scope of what we can address in a detailed site plan. And we have legal parameters. So, but I'm glad we can accommodate, if it goes forward, at least some of the conditions. Okay. What I was going to, you went back to the slide for a reason, Mr. Bossi.
Yes, ma'am. I thought, given the number of speakers signed up, this would be a good point of reference to have up should it be necessary.
Okay. The other question I had for you was, in one of the slides, you mentioned the castle, and we didn't have the cursor up at the time. Can you go back to that slide for a second, and we'll come back to. It's right here. Which one? Which this one? Right there. Right there. Okay.
Visible on that.
Okay. Thank you. Right there. Okay. Thank you. I'm good. So that.
It's that lower right-hand corner.
Okay. So were you finished or not finished?
Just one more minute, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's fine.
If you don't
That's
mind
fine.
indulging me.
Nope. Okay.
So those conditions that we just discussed from the city that staff does agree with, it's our understanding that the applicant is in agreement with those as well, and some of the conditions that they have put forth do mimic those.
Okay.
So the applicant has also requested to modify one other staff condition, specifically condition 2C.
Okay.
And as mentioned, the applicant's requested conditions are similar to two of those requested by the city. So in total, there's 5 staff-supported changes associated with the city and applicant have put forth in their most recent submissions. These are noted on page 6 of staff's memorandum dated October 22nd. So that's a good place just to go and look and see what exactly staff did agree with based on what the city and applicant has asked for.
Okay.
And then just very quickly, Madam Chair, in regards to materials submitted by Ms. Walker and Mr. Nelson, they did not include any requested revisions to the staff report. And with that, staff is pleased to recommend that the Planning Board approve DSP 19045 and TCP 2117-05-01, and with the conditions included in the technical staff report as modified by staff's memorandum dated October 22nd, 2020, which again provides for modifications of conditions 2C and adds conditions 4, 5, 6, and 7. With that, Madam Chairwoman, I'm happy to conclude this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bossi. Let's see if there are any questions. Madam Vice Chair.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Washington?
No questions, but thank you to Mr. Bossi for just such a clarifying conclusion. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's such a smooth landing. Okay. Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions, but I also want to thank Mr. Bossi for referencing page 6 of the staff memorandum.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorner?
No questions. Just for point of order, as we start to get the applicant and then other people testifying, if they're going to refer to things in the backup, it'd be really helpful if they would refer to, if they know which document it is, because we have a backup, we have a memorandum, we have 3 other backups, and then a Dropbox series of exhibits. So
it's a lot.
If they know documents, then that would be helpful for reference.
Yeah, that would be good, and give us a chance to locate it on this this file that we have. Okay. Okay, so that was it for no questions. Okay, Mr. Haller. Okay,
He's muted.
Yeah, but we're unmuting him. He's got to unmute himself over there too. There you are. Okay.
I'm sorry, Matt.
No worries.
I was on mute. I was, again, Thomas Haller. I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of the applicant, and I do want to note as a preliminary matter that it would appear that I am as equally unprepared as Mr. Tedesco and Mr. Lynch with regard to my attire. But I did want to note that the board stole a little bit of my thunder, because I did bring with me today to display to the board a photo of one of our past events at the planning board.
And you were there.
That I was prepared to wear, but you've already shown it, so.
Okay.
So congratulations.
Okay,
on
we
that.
give you a half credit. Okay.
Thank you very much. Almost as lame as the breadwinner, but not quite. I do want to note that with me today to assist in the presentation are two representatives of the ownership group, Mr. Richard Alter and Mr. Ed Scott. I also have Mr. Wes Guckert, who is our traffic consultant, and Mr. George Warholic, who's with Dewberry and who prepared the engineering plans that are before you today. I do want to thank Mr. Bossi. He provided a very thorough overview of the project. As he noted, we do agree with staff's findings and their conditions as revised in their October 22nd memo. I do have one minor revision to one of the recommended conditions that I will address later, but it's really just a clarifying modification. As the board noted, I submitted a supplementary materials into the board's record prior to the October 15th hearing, and then submitted another larger package of supplementary materials for this hearing. The information submitted for the hearing in our most recent submission is largely the same as what was submitted as part of the prior submission, but it was the two main differences with regard to our most recent submission are that, as noted in the staff report, in the original staff report, there was a prior preliminary plan of subdivision that was applicable to this case, application 4-75259, and staff had initially indicated that the records of that file were unavailable and they were not aware of any conditions of approval of that subdivision. Subsequently, it was determined that a list of the applicable conditions was found in the record of detailed site plan 05038, and there were four conditions referenced in that detailed site plan, and so my revision in the supplementary materials addresses each of the requirements related to the approval of the subdivision, most of which relate to the requirement to undergo a detailed site plan, which is what we have here before you today. In addition to that, our supplementary materials include some additional analysis by Mr. Guckert with the traffic group, and I'm going to ask him to summarize that information for you shortly. I do want to highlight a couple of things from the supplemental information that we submitted earlier this week. In that supplemental statement of justification, I extensively discussed the development history of the Golden Triangle. I think the board is well aware of the Golden Triangle. It's an area of land that comprises approximately 50 acres of land that is bounded by Kenilworth Avenue, Capitol Beltway, and Greenbelt Road. It is the triangle formed by those three roads and the tremendous access that this property enjoys that caused it to be designated as the Golden Triangle about 50 years ago. And the development of the project began in the mid-1970s with the approval of the subdivision I referenced earlier. This lot is part of what was originally proposed in the Golden Triangle to consist of 1 million square feet of development. And this particular parcel, this part of Lot 7 that's before you today, ends up being the last of the properties to develop. And that's relevant for two reasons. Number one is, and Madam Chair, is it possible for me to be designated as a presenter to assist in the review of some of the exhibits?
We're doing it right now. Okay. So you got to share. You're sharing your screen. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. They just gave you permission. Mr. Flanagan heard you. But now you got to do your part.
Can you now see my screen?
Nope. We see you.
Okay.
We gave him permission, right? Oh no, now we see Manny. Okay. Okay.
Does that work now? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the image that's before you right now is a current aerial of the Golden Triangle, just so everybody can be oriented to where this is in relationship to Kenilworth Avenue, the Beltway, and Greenbelt Road. And as I indicated, the property that is the subject of this application, which is in the southeast corner of the Golden Triangle, ends up being the last property to fully develop. And so you can see the existing development within the Golden Triangle. The condition that was imposed in 1975 requiring detailed site plan review was imposed before any development had occurred in this area, and it was focused on issues such as parcel configuration, access, visibility from the Beltway, and natural development constraints. As the last parcel to develop in the Golden Triangle, the lotting pattern has now obviously been established, access has been determined, and visibility from the Beltway has been largely addressed because the property doesn't immediately front on the Capitol Beltway. Other properties do and did, but this property does not. The other thing that we have pointed out in the information we provided, and this is taken from our justification statement, is that the area that constitutes this property was largely degraded back in the late 1970s. This is a 1980 aerial photograph, and it shows much of the, at that time, much of the southern portion of the Golden Triangle had already been completely graded. And as a result of that, again, going back to the purposes for which the detailed site plan was concerned and concerns about natural features and whatnot, this property, as it currently sits today, has no regulated environmental features on the property. There's no streams, there are no wetlands, there are no steep slopes, there are no specimen trees. In fact, as the forest stand delineation that we submitted with our materials indicated, this is second generation growth trees that are dominated by invasive species and not a high priority for retention. So this property from an environmental features standpoint is about as clean as you will ever see. In fact, there are no specimen trees on the site. So there are no impacts related to the development of this site from the standpoint of impacting regulated environmental features. So what remains for review is simply the site layout and whether it satisfies the code requirements. And what we have presented to the planning board is a plan that satisfies all of the zoning ordinance requirements. We are at this point requesting no waivers, we're requesting no variances, we're requesting no departures as it relates to the development of the property. The additional information that we submitted regarding traffic was intended to address an issue raised in the letter sent to the board by the city of Greenbelt. As we noted in our justification statement, we met with the city of Greenbelt on multiple occasions, and one of the concerns that was raised, and it's reflected in their letter, was a concern about access to the property from Capitol Drive and Maryland 193. And if I can show a, let me see. I think this would, so this is a copy of the rendering that Staff showed you earlier with some additional information on it related to the existing wooded buffer between the property and the Capitol Beltway. And so that what the city had raised a concern because the intersection of Capitol Drive and Greenbelt Road is an unsignalized intersection. Capitol Drive does connect to Walker Drive to the west, and vehicles can easily make the movement to that location, but the city of Greenbelt expressed a concern without submitting any evidence that there would be an issue with the increased traffic generated by this subdivision to be able to make a turning movement onto access, a left turn from Capitol Drive onto Greenbelt Road, or a left turn from Greenbelt Road into Capitol Drive. And so we wanted to further address that concern. Now, one thing that was recommended to us by our traffic consultant was the construction of the addition of signage to the site. So what I wanted to address to you is that signage, and there's a condition which specifically relates to providing signage. So as I discussed, you have Walker Drive, which intersects with Greenbelt Road at a signalized intersection. And then you have Capitol Drive, which allows for full turning movements, which is an unsignalized intersection. And so our traffic consultant recommended to us that at our site exit, that we place signage to direct traffic intending to travel eastbound on 193 to proceed to Walker Drive and take advantage of the traffic signal at that location. And so what this exhibit shows, and this exhibit is Exhibit L in our supplemental materials, shows the signage that would be added at the site exit, and an additional sign to show that the turning movement at Walker Drive, and then to encourage motorists to go left at the traffic signal back going east on Greenbelt Road. And so we had proposed that condition initially. We had proposed that as well to the city of Greenbelt, and we offered that as an amended condition to staff in this particular instance. Since the continuance a couple of weeks ago, however, we asked our traffic consultant to do some additional investigation because while this is a detailed site plan and an adequacy analysis is not required, we did want to make sure that we addressed any potential safety concern. And that there were two issues that we asked the traffic group to address. The first was, if we're going to be directing customers to use the intersection of Walker Drive and Greenbelt Road, we wanted to make sure that we weren't sending them to an intersection that was failing and that could not accommodate the traffic. So we asked Mr. Guckert to take a look at the adequacy of that intersection. He had indicated in a prior memo that based on State Highway Administration counts that the intersection operates at a level of service A, but those counts were older than what staff would normally allow to be used. So we asked him to do an update on that. The second thing we asked him to do was to investigate whether or not there were sufficient gaps in traffic that would allow for the safe movement of left-turning vehicles into and out of this intersection in the event that a motorist, knowing the area, knew that they could make a left-hand turn and just didn't want to go up to the traffic signal. So we asked Mr. Guckert to look at both of those issues, and I'm going to ask Mr. Guckert now to provide for you a summary of his findings. I would like to note for the record that Mr. Guckert, his resume is included in our supplementary materials as Exhibit I. Mr. Guckert has been accepted as an expert witness by this board many times, and so I would like to ask that Mr. Guckert be accepted as an expert in presenting his evaluation of the intersection.
Mr. Guckert has been accepted as an expert not just many times, but many years, and I venture to say a few decades. So we're certainly not going to unexpert him now. Thank you. So Mr. Guckert?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for the explanation. Indeed, we undertook traffic signal analyses regarding the traffic signal at Walker Drive, and even though the State Highway Administration found about 9 years ago that it's operating level of service A, it is still operating level of service A, even when adding the 4%. We undertook counts in September, added the 4% that was under the normal process and guidelines, and found it operating level of service A. We also went into extreme detail and did a gap analysis to determine how many gaps were going to be available for westbound traffic coming from the Lake Crest Drive traffic signal. And indeed, that signal, as well as the traffic signal at Walker, because they are signalized, provides natural gaps in the traffic stream. So we examined the amount of gaps that exist during both the morning and evening peak hours and peak periods, and found that there were more gaps actually necessary to accommodate what we think will be 30% of the traffic making a left in, potentially making a left out. That does not assume that in the 30% number, members of the board, that there would be anyone who would elect to go out of the site along Capitol Drive, make a left to Walker and a left onto 193 to proceed eastbound on 193. We assumed that no one would do that when we made our 30% assumption and examined the gaps that would be available. Bottom line is that, as you may be aware from the previous writings of the city of Greenbelt, they were concerned about folks being able to make a left turn primarily out of Capitol Drive on the eastbound 193. And there are enough gaps created by the traffic signal, by the two traffic signals, the one at Lakecrest and the one at Walker, to allow vehicles to safely make that maneuver.
So let me make sure I heard, one thing I want to make sure I heard correctly was that, because I too have a problem, having lived in Greenbelt for a long time. I wanted to make sure that I know exactly where Lakecrest Drive is, and there's the gas station, everything on Lakecrest Drive. There is that traffic signal there, and you're saying in your analysis, even though you're going to put signage there directing people to use Walker Drive if they want to go eastbound on 193, as you did the analysis, you still factored in that people might not do that, and they might just use Capitol Drive and still turn left and to go east. And you're saying, given the traffic signals at Walker Drive and at Lakecrest, there's still not a huge safety problem, but the signage would help. Is that what you're saying?
I am 100% correct. And so this is not, we did not do an analysis. We did actual gaps that are available.
Okay.
Based upon doing traffic counts and a gap analysis using video technology to determine the amount of time that gaps occur 4 to 5 seconds or greater.
I do know. I've seen those gaps myself because, as you know, we have our Park and Planning has a satellite Parks and Recreation office up Walker Drive, and so I'm over there a lot, so I see that. But I do think the signage will help anyway. Now, some people will still do, take the shortest distance between 2 points, but I do think the signage is a good thing, and I'm glad that you're adding that anyway.
I think the signage will be extremely helpful, especially for those that are, completely unfamiliar or not completely familiar,
Correct.
number one. And number two, during peak hours, if you don't want, it's going to be easy to understand how traffic is flowing just by looking at it. And it's going to be a safer movement, obviously, to go down Capitol, make a left, and make a second left on the eastbound.
Yes.
And the good thing, Madam Chair, members of the board, is that this is a convenience site, a convenience store site, meaning that most folks will want to be making a right in and right out anyway. Those that may be wanting to stop, as the city of Greenbelt noted, to get fried chicken on their way home that are east of the Beltway, clearly they'll be making a left in and a left out, but they always do not need to make the left out at Capitol Drive. And that was the point of doing these extra studies and these extra analyses, because the city of Greenbelt logically and rightly brought that to our attention. And so we wanted to make sure that the clients of Borough Farm could safely make that maneuver.
Okay. Is that it for you, Mr. Decker?
That concludes my immediate response to Mr. Haller, unless, Tom, you have anything else you want me to discuss?
No, that's all I have for now. And I do want to note a couple of things. So we had initially proposed and offered to place the signage prior to doing the gap analysis. Based on existing traffic today, you can see from the aerial photograph that the only use that really fronts on Capitol Drive and not on Walker Drive is the Capitol Cadillac dealership. And so there isn't a high volume of turning movements coming in and out of Capitol Drive today. So Mr. Gucker did pull state highway accident records, and there were no accidents related to the movement that the city was expressed concern about. And it is interesting that the roadway network that serves the Golden Triangle was set up, as I mentioned earlier, to accommodate up to 1 million square feet of development, and it was designed to provide options to motorists. You can go in and out Walker Drive where there's a signalized intersection. You can also go in and out Capitol Drive. The concern raised by the city was, obviously, given the nature of the use, that we're going to be adding more traffic for people that may want to make those left turning movements into and out of Capitol Drive. And so we felt that it was appropriate to go and to do a deeper dive than just saying we're going to put up a sign, and actually determine whether or not there were sufficient gaps to accommodate that movement. So while those options will still be available, as Mr. Guckert noted, and while we are going to use signage to make sure they know that those options are available if they're unfamiliar with the area, it is also nice to know that there are, in fact, sufficient gaps to allow movements to allow motorists to safely turn in and out of Capitol Drive should they desire to do so, without the need for any additional road improvements. I also would like to, before I conclude, I do want to show one other thing, because staff discussed this, and I just wanted to make sure that the board can visualize it. So, utilizing the original site plan that we prepared, the one that was submitted, we originally designed the site with 2 points of ingress and 1 point of egress. So the idea was that if anybody going to the second commercial building on the eastern side of the property would enter Capitol Drive and would immediately turn right into this driveway that would lead to the second building. And then if you're going to the Royal Farm Store, that you would utilize the second ingress to be able to go to the gas station to avoid vehicles cutting through where the gas pumps were and where people were going back and forth to the convenience store. And so we had actually created that design based upon meetings that were held about 2 years ago with the city of Greenbelt, who asked us to separate the traffic within the site to accommodate 2 different uses. When we submitted this site plan, the city expressed a concern about having 2 entrances and the possible confusion that that could create, and asked us if we would evaluate doing an internal channelization of the traffic. And so what we did, and this internal channelization exhibit is attached to the backup as Exhibit G, and it's a little harder to see because it's not in color. But if you look at it, we've eliminated the entrance in that you saw previously, so that as somebody takes a right, they'll come up to the one entrance into the property, will enter into the site, and then make a right-hand turn to be able to go to the second building. We will be able to have directional signage inside so that people know which direction to go. And so since Capitol Drive is within the jurisdiction of the city of Greenbelt, and they expressed concern about the nature of that dual entrance design, we have agreed to modify it to provide for the single entrance, which is shown on this Exhibit G before you as well. So we wanted to make sure that the board was aware that we addressed the city's concern about the safety of the entrance, we addressed the city's concerns about the left turning movements in and out of Capitol Drive, and we are also adding the signage to make sure that we provide information to motorists that they have other options. At this point, I'm going to conclude my presentation in order to allow other participants to address the board, and then I'll be back after they're done to be able to respond to any of the concerns that they raised.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haller. First, I'm going to see if our board has any questions of you or Mr. Guckert at this time. So, Madam Vice Chair?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Washington?
Yeah, I would just like to ask Mr. Howler, the Greenbelt condition number 11, does that adequately address all that you just covered in terms of turns and signage onto I-193 as well as 295?
Yes, the city's condition 11 relates to the signage that I just showed you, and then the City's condition 3 relates to the revision to the entrance onto Capitol Drive to provide for internal channelization. So what I've just shown you addresses both cities' conditions 3 and 11.
Great, thank you, Mr. Howler.
Okay, Commissioner Dorner,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Giraldo.
No questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a number of people signed up. So I don't know if there's any particular order. I can start with the mayor of the City of Greenbelt, Mayor Byrd. Do you wish to go first? Or Mr. Pounds, representing the city?
Madam Chair, this is Todd Pounds. Could I go, now, I'm not sure if Mayor Burr was going to be on or not.
Okay.
Could I go next to representing the city?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you and also to the members of the Planning Board. Todd Pounds, and I represent the City Solicitor for the City of Greenbelt. This application originally came before the city staff, the city planning staff, and also the City Advisory Planning Board. Through those reviews, a number of different issues were raised, and those issues and comments were sent to the City Council at a public hearing. At the time, the City Council rejected this proposal. A letter was sent to the Planning Board indicating the rejection by the City Council, as well as outlining some of the reasons for really rejecting this application, including but not limited to the use, the need, the location, the traffic, the intersection that's involved here, the neighborhood, the suitability, and also environmental issues that are involving Still Creek, as well as the tree cutting that would be required for this application. As a result, as you mentioned earlier, the city, in its letter of rejection, did send a letter saying that the City Council did vote against this project. However, with that realization of the authority of the Planning Board, they did send conditions that were requested that it be reviewed and adopted as a result of its internal review also. And while we appreciate that 5 of those conditions were adopted by the applicant, we would request that all 14 conditions actually be adopted. Another issue that came from the city came to the fact that the second commercial building, which is there on the site, which really has not, at least to my knowledge, been adopted for any particular use at this time. We find this to be objectionable in that it's a sort of a long-term view of it, and the city believes that there should be, that building should be viewed separately in the future for review when that may occur. So attached to the opposition letter by the city, again stated is a list of the conditions that if it's going to be adopted, we would request that all the conditions be adopted with regard to that. It is the city's view that the application before it was opposed by the City Council, and indeed many of the conditions were discussed at that time. And we know the city's opposition is a request and obviously is not binding before the Planning Board. So the reason that the city included the conditions is that if the Planning Board votes to approve the project, obviously, over the city's objection, the city would request that the conditions be reviewed in the Planning Board decision. So thus, on behalf of the City Council, the city is in opposition to the application, and we request that it be denied. However, if it is approved, we would request that the conditions be adopted, all of the conditions be adopted into the decision, as well as another reason for the denial, as I stated in the letter, is we're concerned about the building that is being proposed, and we think it would be better to have that building being reviewed at some time in the future when we have a better idea as to that use. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pounds. It's good to see you. However, virtually, but it's good to see you. Let me say this. let me just say this. I'm having reviewed the City of Greenbelt's letter, and I know the city, it was close, but they voted 4-3 to oppose. But as you indicated, they submitted the conditions just in case the board decides to go forward. While we take the information from the municipalities and everybody very, very seriously, as we have to evaluate everything, we still, as you know as an attorney, we still have to evaluate everything in accordance with the laws that have been prescribed and the legal parameters that we have. And as you know, traffic analysis is part of a preliminary plan analysis and not as a detailed site plan analysis. Also, people have referenced the number of gas stations. That is something that we absolutely cannot consider in terms of in a site plan. In terms of need, the need for another gas station is not something that we can address. This is a permitted use as determined by the Prince George's County Council. So I just wanted to make sure. So while the conditions are good, many of them are good. Now there are some things in the letter about the stormwater runoff and things of that nature, and the castle and other things in the letter which are pertinent. I think some of these conditions that the staff has accepted and the applicant has accepted are good. I noticed there's condition number 8, which is the $3,500 contribution to the $3,500 contribution to the city of Greenbelt. We can't get into that per se. We can't impose on the applicant something to donate to the city, but there is strong interest from this board historically on bike racks and things of that nature. So you applicant ought to be thinking of something along those lines. You know, and I don't know. I mean, Mr. Haller, I'll turn to you to address some of those other things after we finish all the presentations. But just like the tree, the request to modify the tree conservation plan and things of that nature, and one of which is as Mr. Pounds indicated, you'll have to respond to the city's concern about the unknown use of the second building. But I would ask you to look through those conditions again and see if any of them are viable to you, and also to be cognizant of the interest of this board in promoting bicycle usage. So with that, I'm going to see if the board has any questions of Mr. Pounds. Madam Vice Chair?
No, I have no questions from Mr. Pounds. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Washington?
No questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Dorner?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Giraldo?
I have no questions. Just want to thank Mr. Bounds for presenting the City of Greenbelt's position.
Okay, thank you. And I think we also have some others representing the city, unless you actually represent it for everybody. But I don't think that that's accurate. So we have Ms. Molly Porter.
Yes, present. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you wish
I will defer to Mr. Pounds to present the city's position, but I'm here and available for any questions.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Would that be Ms. Ruby also?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ruby.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem whatsoever. You're welcome. Ms. Walker? We don't see your name here, so she may be one of the unidentified callers. Susan Walker?
PLA submission activity.
Hello, this is Susan Walker.
Okay, hold on a second, Ms. Walker. Somebody else is talking, and when you have to be careful on these things because people can hear your conversations. So, okay, so if everyone else can mute while Ms. Walker speaks. Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the ability to speak. When I learned about Royal Farm plans in Greenbelt, I did an analysis of Greenbelt Road, and I learned from my drive on Greenbelt Road that currently Greenbelt has 7 gas stations between Hanover Parkway and Branchwood Road. You can see my attached chart, which is C102820, page 94. In addition, 2 more gas stations are 1 block off of Greenbelt Road, one on Cherrywood Lane and another on Southway, as well as a gas station at Old Greenbelt Center. Royal Farms would make the 11th gas station, and this seems to me to be too much duplication of gas stations on 2 miles of road. Also, supposedly Royal Farms is known for its fried chicken, but in Greenbelt Road we have 3 other fast food chicken restaurants, KFC, Mabel's, and Popeyes. Finally, Royal Farms offers a convenience store. I counted no less than 10 convenience stores, 6 in gas stations, 2 7-Elevens, and 2 CVS stores from Hanover Parkway to Branchwood Road. I have no objections to the owners building on their property, but I wonder how they think that this duplication by Royal Farms adds value to the Greenbelt community. Thank you for your attention, and I realize that apparently this is not necessarily going to have anything to do, but I hope that in the future that developers will look at adding value to a community before they start to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's the need that we cannot approve or deny an application based on the need for like in this case. That's one thing I just wanted to address. But everybody's testimony is very, very relevant, and I hear what you're saying, and you're sending a message to developers. But the council has already predetermined this to be a permitted use. So at this point, we'll see what happens. But the permitted use has to be in conformance with the laws that have been enacted. So. Anyway, but we thank you for your testimony. I'm now going to, let's see if the board has any questions of you. Madam Vice Chair? She's muted. Madam Vice Chair?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I did respond. I said no, thank you, but
Okay.
I thank the citizens who have come down to present their testimony.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Washington?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Dorner?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Giraldo?
No, thank you. Just want to thank the citizen for her comments.
Thank you so much. Okay. Macy Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Macy Nelson, can you hear me adequately?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Macy Nelson, I'm here on behalf of various citizens. Let me just take a moment to identify them. Of course, my clients oppose this project, and I'll outline in summary form why we outline it and then why we oppose it. And we have 2 witnesses. We have a landowner, Ruth Grover, and we have a traffic engineer, a certified traffic engineer, Larry Green. But if staff could bring up my 3rd exhibit, this is an aerial images of the persons of record. I want to identify where 2 of my citizens' clients own property.
Okay, hold on a second. We're trying to get it here. Okay.
Now these aren't my exhibits.
Okay, so what number is this again?
Well, I submitted in accordance with a schedule 8 PDFs.
Yes, we have them.
Where I was asking to bring it up on the screen, and it's my 3rd exhibit.
The aerial, okay.
Yeah.
Can you pull
Should be
it up?
one file with each of my exhibits in it.
We have hard copies. Okay, hold on a second.
It's the wrong file.
And Chair, I believe this is David Warner, Principal Counsel. I believe it's page 112 of the backup with the original technical staff report, the original backup that came with the first hearing and was continued to this.
You have to go down one, I think.
If it would be helpful at all, I can pull it up on my computer. I've got it pulled up on my computer if you'll make me present it.
I have it in front of me, but if you, I don't have mine virtually. I have mine as a physical copy. So if you can do that, that's fine.
Is that it?
All right.
Nelson?
Can we enlarge
This
it?
is the third exhibit that we submitted electronically.
Right.
Of course, we can all see the golden triangle in the lower left-hand corner. We see the Capitol Beltway on the east edge of the golden triangle, and you see Bell Point Road. My clients, Mr. Massoud and Mr. Ahmad, each own property on Bell Point Road, 7923 Bell Point and 7855 Bell Point Road. So those are where two of my citizen clients own a property. I also would ask staff to bring up Exhibit 1, my Exhibit 1, because this identifies some of my other clients. And Exhibit 1 is an aerial of the Greenbelt Road corridor west of the Golden Triangle, which identifies some of my small business clients. Greenbelt Road Shell, U.S. Fuel, Greenbelt Sunoco, Greenbelt Exxon, Extra Fuel Gas Station, Beltway Plaza Shell, Berwyn Heights Shell, Spring Hill Lake Shell, and Greenbelt. And also Exhibit 2, I won't bore you with that, but we have an image of the small businesses to the east of the Golden Triangle, including the Greenbelt Auto and Truck. Each of these small business owners is a client of mine, and each opposes this application.
How many gas stations was that? How many gas station owners was that, Mr. Nelson?
I beg your pardon?
I was trying to get the number of them because you were talking so fast. The gas station owners that you represented, the number.
Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I count 9.
Okay.
And I count a 10th, which is the Greenbelt Auto and Truck shop.
And the two, and then the other, you had the other two business owners on Bell Point, right?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
My assignment, my legal assignment in this case, was to advise my clients as to whether this application conformed with the requirements of the law. That was my legal assignment. And we have concluded that it does not for both procedural and substantive grounds. Let me address the procedural grounds. Section 27 of the zoning ordinance, 27-125.05, requires the publication of a staff report no less than 2 weeks prior to the scheduled public hearing. We assert that the revised staff report filed on October 22, 2020 violates that mandatory requirement in the zoning ordinance. We also assert that the late filing by the applicant of the additional materials, the additional substantial materials, violates the planning board process guidelines at page 6, which requires the filing no more than 35 days prior to the planning board of any additional information. So what we have here in this case is a new staff report published 1 week ago. We have, that's a violation. We have the filing by the applicant of substantial materials less than 35 days ago. The applicant's materials were so late that staff in its report filed 1 week ago didn't even have the opportunity to address some of Mr. Tuckert's new traffic opinions.
Mr. Nelson, would this include the publication of the city's requested conditions then too? The city of Greenbelt's.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, would this include the publication of the city of Greenbelt's requested conditions as well?
Would my objection include that?
I mean, would that be considered too late to consider their conditions?
I haven't analyzed that issue. What my legal position is, the staff report is too late.
Okay.
The applicant's materials are too late, and for that reason, we assert the planning board doesn't have the authority to conduct this hearing today. Those are our procedural objections to this application. We have substantive objections.
Okay.
In addition. The application, as we all know, must conform with the site design guidelines in 27-274. we are directing the planning board to consider 27-274, subpart little a, C, regarding access and the effect on off-site traffic. This is a point that our traffic engineer will discuss in detail. We assert that staff didn't discuss this issue, that this application should be denied because the applicant has failed to conform with 27-274 C1 and 2. And as I say, Mr. Green will address that point. Now, the chair made some comments earlier about the absence of a need requirement. As we all know, sometimes there is, for example, for a special exception, the requirement to prove need.
Yes.
We're not arguing need. What we're arguing is there's a mandatory requirement in this zoning ordinance that the application conform with the sector plan. 27-102A2 requires conformance with the sector plan. 27-446A6 requires conformance with the sector plan. Our land planner, Ruth Grover, will discuss these issues in greater detail, but I wish to highlight 2 pages of the approved Greenbelt Metro Area and MD 193 corridor plan. Page 147 talks about protecting and strengthening existing business. And this is what, and we will present, our argument is that the addition of this Royal Farms proposal will violate that principle at page 147 of the sector sector plan. I'd also like to direct the planning board to page 109 of the plan, which talks about how Golden Triangle should be a office park. We assert that this proposal violates that provision of the sector plan. We also assert that the design of this project is inconsistent with the requirements in the preliminary plan of subdivision 4-75259. And if staff could please bring up the exhibit 6 that I submitted.
Can you, Mr. Haller? Okay. Okay. Let me find your exhibit 6, which is the Royal Farms National Harbor Night View.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go.
All right. As we all know, Royal Farms has a template for these new Royal Farms. They're throughout the county now. This is just one example of a Royal Farms design, which is, if it's not identical to the proposed design, it's virtually identical to it. We assert that the condition that the preliminary plan 4-75259 requires as a mandatory matter enhanced architecture. We can go to the preliminary plan to look at the language, but we assert that preliminary plan requires enhanced architecture. We assert that the proposed design violates that requirement, and we have, of course, not only my exhibit 6, but the PowerPoint slides 13 and 14, which are the renderings. So we assert that the design itself violates the requirements of the governing preliminary plan. So for all those reasons, my clients oppose the application for procedural and substantive grounds. Also, I wish to note that many citizens signed up as persons of record and stated that they oppose the project, although they're not formally my clients. They signed up in opposition to the project.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Nelson. I need for other people to be muted because other people, I can hear the background from other people. All right, go ahead, Mr. Nelson, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make the point that that there are many citizens who signed up as persons of record in opposition, and they all live in the city of Greenbelt, which shouldn't be surprised when, in fact, the city of Greenbelt as a municipality recommended disapproval of this project. But one of the citizens, Mr. Benjamin Fischler, authorized me, not as his lawyer, but to speak on his behalf formally. So on his behalf, I would like to incorporate all of the objections that my former clients made in opposition to this project for both procedural and substantive grounds. So that concludes my remarks. I would like to allow our land planner, Ruth Grover, to address her land planning comments, and then our traffic engineer, certified traffic engineer, Lawrence Green, can speak after Ms. Grover, if that's acceptable with the planning board.
That's fine. I think what might make more sense, unless, can I see the board? To hold questions, let me just do it this way. See if the board has any questions of you before you go to Ms. Grover. Okay. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Washington?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Dorner?
No question.
Okay. Commissioner Geraldo?
No question.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Grover?
Hi, my name is Ruth Grover, and I'm testifying as the land planner on the Greenbelt Royal Farms DSP 19045 project. I've worked in a variety of public and private planning jobs, and most recently have been working with Macy Nelson, which brings me to this hearing. There are many reasons why, from a land planning perspective, this project should not be approved. The zoning ordinance. First, the project does not meet the required findings. Section 27285B of the zoning ordinance requires that in order to approve a DSP, the planning board must find that the project is a reasonable alternative to satisfying the site design guidelines of Section 27274 for CSPs made applicable to detailed site plans by Section 27283, and we do not feel that it does. Most prominently, we do not feel the project meets the guidelines for safe access from Greenbelt Road via Capitol Drive. I will, however, allow Larry Green, our transportation planner, address that point in greater detail. We would also like to note that of the 9 or so DSPs that have been approved in Prince George's County for Royal Farms, that's DSP 20017, DSP 17057, DSP 15012, DSP 19043, DSP 02026, DSP 07073, DSP 15020, DSP 16027, and DSP 13007. Of all these different applications, this is the only project located in the CO zone, and the use is permitted here not in the main body of the use table, but by footnotes, and seems at variance with the stated purposes of the CO zone in section 27-453A of the zoning ordinance. These purposes are to provide locations for predominantly non-retail commercial uses such as business offices and services of a professional, clerical, or administrative nature, and such retail and service uses that are desirable for the efficient and convenient operation of the non-retail units. To date, in Prince George's County, Royal Farm establishments have been permitted only in much more intense zones, including commercial shopping center, CSC, commercial marine, CM, and mixed-use transportation-related MXT zones. There's a reason for this. They are big trip generators and generally they're more commercially intense than those otherwise permitted in the CO zone. With respect to the sector plan, the project is inconsistent. This consistency is required by the zoning ordinance. More particularly, it's required by section 27-102A2, which states that the purpose of the zoning ordinance is to implement the general plan, area master plans, and functional master plans. Also, section 27446A6 of the zoning ordinance places this requirement on development in commercial zones, stating that the general purpose of commercial zones is to promote the efficient and desirable use of land in accordance with the purposes of the general plan, area master plan, and the zoning ordinance. The approved Greenbelt metro area and Maryland 193 corridor plan and sectional map amendment, the applicable master plan, has a goal on page 147 of promoting and strengthening existing office and retail markets and facilitating the revitalization and redevelopment of existing commercial properties. This is to enhance the competitiveness of the area businesses. These goals focus on aiding and protecting existing commercial land use instead of allowing new development which may negatively impact existing commercial land use in the area. Additionally, the sector plan states on page 109 the policy for the Golden Triangle. This is the area in which the project is located, as promoting a successful and competitive regional office park. It states as strategy 1.1 that this should be accomplished by supporting existing office uses and retaining zoning. This policy and strategy are not being fulfilled by the subject proposal for a convenience store with gas pumps and an unspecified commercial use, which would bring more traffic to the area and could create a variety of other negative off-site impacts. Third, the approved sector plan specifically suggests incorporating and celebrating the history of the Toping Castle as part of the Golden Triangle's open space network, which this project does not do. The ruins are to be preserved with a bench and a sign, but the open space surrounding the resource is to be greatly compromised. Note that the city of Greenbelt has a unique history of being a federally designed and built new town following the era of the Great Depression, with aspirations of making it a better than usual pre-planned environment. In this case, that vision is not being furthered. Fourth, we find issues with the preliminary plan of subdivision. Though there was some debate regarding which preliminary plan was applicable at the last planning board hearing on the project, staff in their supplemental memorandum dated October 22nd, 2020, staff has indicated that the preliminary plan of subdivision 4-75259 is the applicable plan. This approval suggests enhanced architecture. It says, this approval suggested that development on the subject property provide for an integrated development of the parcels of the property to achieve a coherent and aesthetically desirable development, including but not limited to unification of architectural elements such as color, texture, height, signs, lighting, etc., which affect the visual image of the site and bring a benefit to the community and economic benefit to the development. As you saw, Macy showed you Exhibit 6. Oh, it's still up, good. This architecture is approximately the same as which is reflected in the PowerPoint for the subject project. And in my opinion, this requirement is not subject by this architect. In my opinion, this requirement is not satisfied by the subject project. Further, the preliminary plan of subdivision was approved subject to 4 conditions. And note that condition 1 requires approval of a site plan for each individual parcel in the development, considering many factors, including the nature of the land use on the site and access. Staff's discussion of conformance to this condition is perfunctory and subjective. Condition 3 requires that the planning board will consult with the city of Greenbelt in its review of the site plans for the individual uses. The site plan was shared with the city of Greenbelt, who then issued a letter dated October 12, 2020, recommending disapproval. We'd like to suggest that this condition requires more deference to the city of Greenbelt's recommendation in the project. Reporting Greenbelt's comments in the staff report and adding a few of Greenbelt's recommended conditions seems insufficient, especially when there's no trigger for those conditions that have been included in staff's recommended conditions. These are new conditions 1, 5, 6, and 7 on page 6 of staff's clarifications to the technical staff report. Normally, these changes would be conditioned to be prior to certificate approval. Lastly, in revised finding 12N of staff clarifications to technical staff report, it clarifies that though initially it was thought the several different preliminary plans of subdivision were relevant to the site, only preliminary plan of subdivision 4-75259 is actually applicable. In this finding, staff, without sufficient evidence, concludes that the DSP is in substantial conformance with the approved preliminary plan of subdivision. In my opinion, the DSP does not conform with the preliminary plan of subdivision. The conditions of that approval require the site plan approved to be evaluated regarding access. Again, we suggest that access to the site is inadequate, and I will again defer to Larry Green regarding that discussion and suggest that it generates safety and stacking concerns. We note that new proposed conditions 4 and 5 attempt to improve the access by requiring a sign directing vehicles to use Walker Drive and require a single driveway and internal circulation. We would suggest the sign and the suggested or the required revisions to the entrance will be inadequate to create a safe access in accordance with the requirement of condition 1 of the approval of 4-75259 and the site design guidelines. With respect to process, as Macy noted, section 27-125-05A of the zoning ordinance requires that technical staff reports be published on the planning board's website no less than 2 weeks prior to the scheduled public hearing. In this instance, instead of revising the staff report, staff wrote a 6-page memorandum entitled Staff's Clarifications to the Technical Staff Report and posted it together with several pages of other supplementary material 1 week before the planning board's hearing. It was stated that the revised language in the memorandum would be reflected in the resolution to be drafted for the project. We are of the opinion that these materials should have been provided 2 weeks prior to the hearing to afford time to process the new information in accordance with the legislative intent of the zoning ordinance provisions. Based on our examination of the zoning ordinance, the sector plan, and the preliminary plan of subdivision, together with the process guidelines, I'm of the opinion that the project is not in conformance with all the relevant requirements, and therefore would suggest that the planning board disapprove the subject project. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grover. Let's see if the board has any questions for you at this time. Madam Vice Chair?
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions, but I think I heard Ms. Grover say in her comments something about the historical significance of the city of Greenbelt and after the planning board, I will give Ms. Grover a call so we can talk a little bit more about the historical significance of Greenbelt in terms of a sundowning city. So we'll talk about that later, which has nothing to do with this case. Thank you.
It has all kinds of historical significance. Yes, it does. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing is Commissioner Washington.
No questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Dorner.
No questions.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I have no questions.
I was remiss in not calling upon our principal counsel, Mr. Warner, following Mr. Nelson's presentation because I couldn't see him because of the exhibit on the screen. So, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Warner, Principal Counsel. I did want to step in at this point just because Mr. Nelson raised a procedural issue at the beginning of his presentation, and I think the board should consider it at this point before we continue to hear further testimony. His procedural issue, as he said, was from 27-125-05A of the zoning code, which requires that the technical staff report be published no less than 2 weeks prior to the scheduled public hearing. He didn't mention this, but that provision also has a condition that if after the technical staff report is...
I need to stop you for a second because I think somebody's, and is Ms. Grover still on? Because most of the noise we heard was when Ms. Grover was testifying because we muted everybody else. So we want to make sure everybody else is muted now. And then you can go ahead, Mr. Warner. Okay.
Okay, so he addressed that section of the code, but he didn't address that there is a provision in that same section that says that if new information is provided by the applicant or any governmental agency after the technical staff report is published, any party of record shall be allowed a 1-week postponement if such party so requests. So there is a provision in that same paragraph that allows for a party of record to request a postponement. And essentially, our technical staff reports do get revised from time to time after they are published. That happens on a regular basis because certain things are clarified, conditions are addressed at the hearing. Those kind of changes are not substantive changes that fall within this section. But this section does talk about a process where a party of record can be allowed to postpone if they so request. And in this particular case, it was the fact that at our last hearing, there was a substantial amount of information that still needed to be considered by staff, which is why they wrote the 5-page substantive memorandum. So I don't know if that clarifies it enough for the board, but I think the question should be posed to Mr. Nelson, who represents parties of record, I believe, as to whether he's requesting a postponement or he's just noting this issue.
That was my question. As of now, I had not heard a request for a postponement. Or so I guess you open that door. Yes, I guess that opened the door. Okay, Mr. Nelson.
I'll be very brief. 27-125.05 requires the publication at least 2 weeks in advance of the staff report. That's a mandatory obligation. We assert the staff report from 1 week ago violates that mandatory requirement. The sentence to which principal counsel refers about seeking a postponement, that's where there's new information is provided by the applicant or any governmental agency that is not in response to a late filed staff report. In the event that the planning board interprets that second sentence to include a late filed technical staff report, I then do request a postponement.
Okay, so I need, what was the staff report posted late or not? I don't know the answer to that. Mr. Hunt?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hunt?
Madam Chair, James Hunt, from the Development Review Division for the record. The staff report, the original staff report was published on September 30th, 2020. Last week, on October the 22nd, was when the memorandum to update a bit of information on there, which included information from the city of Greenbelt, was included on that. So the staff report has been published since September 30th, 2020.
Okay.
Madam Chair, David Warner, Principal Counsel, that I agree with that. The technical staff report was published. However, new information was provided by a government agency, us, after the technical staff report was published. So I hesitate, obviously, because everybody is here today and this hearing is commenced and we've heard testimony, that a decision would be obviously very difficult on everyone if the board were to consider that postponement request. But I have to interpret the section as I see it, so that's my advice.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, it's Adam Bossi from the Urban Design section. I did just want to make a quick correction. The original hearing for this case was scheduled for September 24th, and that staff report published on September 10th. So just wanted to correct the statement from Mr. Hunt.
Okay, so the staff report was published on September 10th. The original hearing was September 24th. It was continued. Our planning director would like to say something. Mr. Haller, I'll turn to you as well. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to point out that the supplemental report issued by staff was based entirely upon additional information received not only from the city, but also from Mr. Nelson and other people, other parties to this case. So that's the only reason that staff submitted a supplemental information, is to address some of the issues presented by other parties.
Well, this presents a little problem here because I don't want to open a Pandora's box and then so that every time just before we hear a case, somebody can submit some new information and somebody can submit some new information and somebody can submit new information ad infinitum to the point where we can never have a hearing. So my concern is, I mean, we you know, when these laws were passed, obviously we want citizens to have notice. We want everybody to have notice. On the flip side of that is sometimes with the compressed time that we have for these applications, you know, you amass all this information from all the respective entities, from the State Highway Administration in some cases, from the Army Corps of Engineers, from the DPI, from DPW&T, you know, from the Department of the Environment. I mean, they come in from every which direction, not to mention those in our own agency, the various divisions. And people have to synthesize all of that and put it in a report. Then people read the report, and then they start the process of addressing some of those concerns that were raised by some of the other entities, and it results in changes sometimes. Then you get the feedback from the municipalities, which typically only meet monthly, and then you try to say, okay, in any case, not just this case, what positions of the municipality can we address? And so sometimes these result in changes. And if we can't go forward at any point because we're trying to improve upon an application based on information that is submitted and synthesized, then we have a huge problem. So, you know, what I heard the planning director say, and you know, what she said is this information was almost entirely based on the information received by the city of Greenbelt and by Mr. Nelson. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Mr. Haller?
No, I'm sorry, Mason Nelson, that is not, from my opinion, accurate. We had submitted materials that triggered these comments,
Okay.
the revised report.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to turn to Mr. Haller.
We've been trying to master and understand the staff report and the submissions by the applicant. Nothing we did triggered that postponement.
Okay.
Nothing we did triggered the revised staff report.
Okay. What I'm trying to get to the bottom of is because if I never heard a request until Mr. Warner mentioned that just now. So now I'm hearing a request from you to continue. We also need to hear from the applicant on this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Tom Howard on behalf of the applicant. I would note that Mr. Nelson did submit into the record a copy of the resolution from DSPO 5038, which is where the specific conditions of the preliminary plan of subdivision 75239 were located. So I don't think it's necessarily accurate for Mr. Nelson to say that he had nothing to do with resulting in the new information being submitted. I would also note that it's interesting that Mr. Nelson is complaining about getting information late when he's providing information to the board that he could have outlined prior to noon on Tuesday, and he elected not to do so. So he's throwing information in the board's lap at the last minute without giving them the opportunity to review it, and then suggesting that the board has no option but to deny the application. So, I think that needs to be taken into account. I think Mr. Warner's evaluation is correct. I think the information that was provided was a supplement to the staff report. The staff report was timely published originally. Mr. Nelson has the right under that interpretation to request a continuance, and the board has within their discretion to determine whether a continuance is appropriate and whether or not that would provide any new information that the board would need to have in front of it. But at this particular point in time, given the information that's been provided, I do not see and would not support a continuance of the hearing at this point.
Okay. Well, let me see if the board members have any questions on the issue of whether we need to continue this.
Madam Chair, I would like to hear, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Washington.
Oh, no, I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
That we deny the request for a continuance and move the case forward.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that was a
Yes.
motion.
Second?
Okay. If you're making a motion to move forward, which you just did actually, Commissioner Washington, and seconded by Vice Chair Bailey, then I would like the reason articulated for the record under discussion.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, based on the comments by Council Warner.
Okay. That it was not the staff report, but it was supplemental information added. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Subsequent clarification. Was that the gist of your statement, Mr. Warner? You're muted.
Madam Chair, David Warner, Principal Counsel. Yes, my point was that the governmental agency added new information that existed of clarifying its technical staff report. The same recommendation existed before and after the additional material was submitted.
Okay, thank you. So that is your motion, and it was seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Giraldo, did you have something under discussion?
Yeah, I didn't hear our council's opinion as such, and perhaps I misunderstood, but I thought it was as a result of a government agency submitting something else that would give anyone the right to seek a continuance. That's number one. And then number two, I didn't hear anybody request a continuance. I heard it was discussed, but I didn't hear any motion or request being made for continuance in the first instance.
Mr. Nelson made the request.
Hold on. There was no request initially. Following Mr. Warner's discussion, Mr. Warner's legal opinion, Mr. Nelson did make the request for a continuance for 1 week. But
and I would like to hear the opinion of Mr. Warner, our counsel, with regards to the request for continuance having been made, and whether it fits within the purview of the statute. That's all.
Madam Chair, David Warner, Principal Counsel. So the request fits within the framework of the statute because the statute merely says if new information is provided by the applicant or any governmental agency after the technical staff report is published, any party of record shall be allowed a 1-week postponement if such party so requests. And then the question for the board to consider, however, because as you stated, Madam Chair, new information is provided by everybody up until the day of the hearing when we discuss changes to the conditions that will be in the technical staff report. So, when does it rise to the level that it is substantive enough that it necessitates this granting this motion? And that's for the board to consider.
And that's a huge problem because it could easily mean that we never hear a case. It could easily mean that because very often we get something from the State Highway Administration after the publication. Very often we get something from the Department of Public Works and Transportation. Very often we get something from DPI. Very often we get something regarding stormwater management. Very often we get something from the Army Corps of Engineers. Very often we get something from the Department of even the Fire Department, the Health Department. All of these entities who write in because when an application is filed, it is the information, as Ms. Grover knows, is disseminated to a bazillion people, a bazillion entities, a government entities. It's very often we hear late from the municipalities, from DPI, from DPWT, from Department of the Environment, from Army Corps of Engineers, from so many, Board of Education, Health Department, just the Fire Department, so many different entities. That when do we get to the point where we actually hear a case? Somebody could intentionally file something intentionally just to thwart our ability to have a hearing. This could go on and mean that we can never get to the point where we can never have a hearing. So I just want us to be cognizant of that. And I don't.
Madam Chair, can I just?
Yes, I don't even know who that is because I can't see. Who is that?
Catwood.
Okay, I still don't know who. Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm actually familiar with the original posting because I read it back on September 10th, which is like right after one of our hearings. We got out fairly early that day, and I actually read through the case and the materials because I go hiking across the street in the national park there. And yeah, I agree that the substantive nature of the case has not necessarily changed. Staff had their opinions that were written in a memo at the end of August for the recommendations. Some of the recommendations have been altered, but the overall findings and what's been presented today may have been tweaked slightly just to kind of bring in some of the newer issues, but they haven't changed. So I don't think a reconsideration is necessary. Any of these complaints about the choices of the land use or the quote-unquote need could have been raised on September 24th when the original hearing was scheduled, or when I read it and was posted on the 10th of September, they could have raised that with staff at that point. Waiting to now, I don't think absolves the situation or means that we need to reconsider this because I actually reached out to staff with a question and asked it on the 10th, and other parties could have done the same thing.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to conclude the board discussion at this point, unless any other. We're in the middle of a board discussion on our vote, and so the board is able to ask someone a question if it helps clarify our position on the vote. So
I'm just wondering if it's going to continue with the public hearing.
We don't know that yet. We haven't voted yet. We're in the middle. We have a motion and a second. We were under discussion, so we don't know that yet.
Madam Chair, I want to thank Principal Counsel Warner for his explanation. So I'm ready to vote as well.
Okay. So we have 4 board members on here besides myself. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that every board member has said their piece in terms of discussion. Is that accurate?
Yes. Call for the vote, Madam Chair.
Okay. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Right.
Okay, the ayes have it 5-0 that we will continue with this hearing. The vote to postpone, there was a vote not to postpone, and that passed unanimously. So we will continue with the public hearing. However, it is imperative that we take at least a mental health break at this time. As a matter of that we probably have a ways to go. Mr. Nelson, were you getting ready to say something? He's muted.
I didn't know whether you want me to call my next witness, but I'll mute myself until I...
Okay, I'm trying to figure out what the position of the board. At a minimum, we need a health break because Mother Nature's calling. So at a minimum, we need a health break, but I'm trying to see if this is really an opportune time to take a lunch break. So that,
I think it...
can someone check with, yeah. Can you hold? All right, so how about we take a lunch break and resume at 1:30? Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll resume at 1:30. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay. See, we have the planning board. All 5 members of the planning board, right? Do I? Oh, there they are. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so we have all 5 members of the planning board. We have Macy Nelson. We have Todd Pounds. Okay, do we have Mr. Bossi?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. And I thought I saw Todd Pounds. I said, okay. Do we have Mr. Warner? Okay, there we go. Okay. We have Ms. Grover spoke. Do we have her? And do we have Mr. Green?
Yes, Mr. Green's here.
Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Ruth is here too.
Okay, wonderful. Do we have Mr. Orleans? Mr. Orleans? He might be a caller.
Yes.
We got Mr. Orleans? Yes? Okay. Okay. That was a yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, do we have Mr. Haller?
Yes, I'm on as well.
Okay. And Mr. Duckert? And all the people that you may need?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I think that's the main one that you needed, okay, at this point. Okay. All right, so Mr. Nelson, you were still in your case, and you had Ms. Grover speak, and I know you wanted to have Mr. Green speak as well. Do you want to take the floor, Mr. Nelson, and proceed in the order that you want to proceed?
Yes, thank you very much. Mason Nelson for the citizen protestants. We'd like to call Lawrence Green as our next witness. I note that his curriculum vitae is in the, I think it's Exhibit 8 of the material I submitted several days ago.
We do have it. I'm sorry.
You say you have that?
Yes, we do.
All right, so I'll meet myself and Mr. Green will testify.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Macy. If I could actually get slide 6 of the applicant's PowerPoint slide, I wanted to talk from that.
This one?
Yeah, that'll do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
As indicated in the CV, I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Maryland, and I am a nationally certified professional traffic operations engineer. I'm testifying to present the case that this application does not meet Section 27-274 requirement for approval. Specifically, in order to gain approval within Section C, the location, number, and design of driveway entrances to the site should minimize conflict with off-site traffic. I'm specifically concerned with the capability of the site to process the outbound site-generated traffic. As previously mentioned, the Maryland 193 at Capitol Drive intersection is controlled by a stop sign on Capitol Drive. Maryland 193 has a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit and provides 4 lanes in both the eastbound and westbound directions. Based upon a May 2018 traffic count on Maryland 193, Maryland 193 services over 4,000 AM peak hour vehicles and over 4,600 vehicles during the PM peak hour. Therefore, any vehicles attempting to turn left from southbound Capitol Drive to eastbound Maryland 193 will need to wait several minutes or longer to find an acceptable gap in traffic to make this turning movement.
Mr. Green, just to, is that even with the gap caused by the traffic lights at Walker Drive and Lakecrest?
Yes, and the reason, and I'm going to get into the more details about that.
Okay.
Basically, based upon the volume that the site's going to be generating. This is why I disagree with that finding.
Okay.
And in order to make my finding, I first had to generate the traffic that this development's going to generate. And the site's actually going to generate 619 AM peak hour trips and 535 PM peak hour trips. And approximately half of those vehicles are going to be entering and half of those vehicles are going to be exiting during both the AM and PM peak hours. Therefore, approximately 310 AM and 268 PM outbound trips are going to be generated by this site. I then determined that of those AM trips, 124 AM and 161 PM peak hour trips want or desire to exit the site to go eastbound on 193.
So
and that's the real problematic movement.
Okay, so let me make, I'm following you. How many, 124 AM? Did I get that right?
Yep, 124 AM and 161 PM.
Okay.
And those are just the vehicles that want to exit the site to go eastbound on 193.
Got it.
Okay, so based upon the very heavy traffic volumes on Maryland 193, very few of those vehicles are going to be able to exit at Capitol Drive. And as shown in this exhibit, Capitol Drive, of course, parallels Maryland 193 over to Walker Drive. And that intersection is a stop sign controlled intersection. Now, Walker Drive is a 4-lane divided roadway that serves a very large business park, restaurants, and hotels. The distance along Walker Drive between Maryland 193 and Capitol Drive is only about 100 feet, which can only accommodate 4 to 5 vehicles of stacking. Therefore, the traffic queues during the PM peak hour frequently extend beyond Capitol Drive. Therefore, this site is going to create a situation where up to 161 PM peak hour trips are going to attempt to go down Capitol Drive, try to make a left-hand turn onto Walker Drive, and then make another left-hand turn to go eastbound on 193. And this is going to be a situation where these vehicles are going to be approaching an intersection that's going to be frequently blocked by queued vehicles. And then they're going to need to slowly navigate through this queued area to reach the Maryland 193 at Walker Drive intersection. In my opinion, this represents a safety and operational concern. In order to get into the queued area along southbound Walker Drive, the left-turning vehicles from westbound Capitol Drive to southbound Walker Drive will need to stop in the meeting area to wait for the courtesy of other drivers to allow these vehicles into the queue waiting to turn left at Maryland 193 during the PM peak period. In my opinion, these median-dwelling vehicles that will partially block the left lane along northbound Walker Drive into the business park represents a safety concern. So, in summary, due to the control of Maryland 193 at Capitol Drive via a stop sign and the thousands of AM and PM peak hour vehicles on 193, vehicles from the proposed Royal Farms site to eastbound 193 cannot effectively perform the left turn movement from southbound Capitol Drive to eastbound Maryland 193. Therefore, this is going to cause a redistribution of the outbound traffic to the Maryland 193 intersection with Walker Drive. However, as I indicated earlier, this creates operational and safety issues Again, Walker Drive serves a large business park, restaurants, and hotels that generate a significant amount of peak period traffic. And due to the high traffic generating characteristic of the Walker Drive corridor, traffic queues along southbound Walker Drive from the traffic signal at Maryland 193 frequently extend beyond Capitol Drive during the PM peak period. Therefore, it will be very difficult for the projected 161 peak hour Royal Farms generated traffic volumes to navigate into the southbound Walker Drive traffic queue to Maryland 193. And the magnitude of this traffic volume performing this movement through a queued intersection raises serious safety concerns. Thus, I've concluded that the proposed Royal Farms site does not meet the detailed site plan requirements as outlined in section 27-274. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Let me see if there are any questions. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Washington?
No questions, but I imagine at some point our staff will respond,
Yes.
our transportation team.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
have our transportation, the applicant has their transportation person too. Okay, Commissioner Doerner?
No questions.
Okay, okay, where'd he go? Commissioner Giraldo? Oh, I forgot, I'm looking for the wrong face. Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Nelson, does that conclude your presentation at this time?
Yes, it does. I just wonder whether Mr. Green, maybe I misheard, you may have inverted the code number. I think he said 274 as opposed to 724.
Yeah,
I
he
would
did.
refer to the
He did.
Chair. I think that was just invert.
So 724? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
27724, I believe, yeah.
C.
Yeah, that concludes my client's case, yes.
Okay, thank you. So no one had questions at this point. Mr. Orleans? Use a phone. Hold on, Mr. Orleans, we're coming to you. Mr. Orleans, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Please identify yourself. Okay.
Bill Orleans, I'm a Greenbelt resident. I wish to associate myself with all the opposition comments made thus far. I heard earlier the emphasis made by the chair that the board must adhere to the legal parameters it's affected by. I'd like to suggest again that all of us should question legal parameters at least some of the time, and every now and again we should challenge those parameters. I believe the public interest supersedes property rights, and for those reasons, any such constrictions that the board feels it's under to approve a sanctioned application without question should be considered by the board inappropriate. With regard to the history cited by Mr. Haller in the development of the Golden Triangle, there was a time when all of that was woods. This preceded the Beltway, preceded the development of Beltway Plaza, preceded the development of Spring Hill Lake Gardens and Greenway Center, and all of what's now on Hanover Parkway, which was then just the airstrip of Schroms Airport. I would not suggest that as good as those woods were, we should return to that point. But Greenbelt has lost probably 80% of its woodshed since its development. It's no longer Greenbelt. It's Greenbelt with a lot of developed properties within the city limits. I would suggest again that Greenbelt and Prince George's County should adopt a policy, and I would encourage council to consider this, as well as the board and its staff, the planning department staff, to adopt a policy that while we encourage development, we do not encourage development where there are existing green spaces, we encourage the reuse of existing developed parts of the county for our future needs. And with that, again, I associate myself with all of the opposition comments and would urge the board to challenge itself as well as challenging council with regard to the necessity of accepting applications without consideration of their merit and their impact on nearby existing businesses. And one other point, with regard to the applicant's presumed proposed use, Royal Farms, I think it's within the board's purview to examine Royal Farms' business practices themselves. I have a friend who has worked for Royal Farms, and my understanding from that friend is that they overhire and underemploy.
Okay.
They have,
Mr. Orleans?
I think it's relevant, Madam Chair. May I just continue for 1 minute?
Depends on where you're going with this. That is not something that is not something we can consider. Their internal, their hiring practices are not something that are before this board. It's beyond the legal parameters of what we can vote, and what we can address. And the other part of this problem is we will get chastised by courts if we go beyond our parameters as well. So I
think it's entirely appropriate to in turn chastise the courts for adhering to the rule of law without adhering to the public interest affected by misapplied law.
I don't get to chastise the courts very well. Okay, Mr. Nelson, I saw you smile at that. Okay, you're muted. I can't hear you. But I'll come back to you. I see a bigger smile. Let me come back to Mr. Orleans. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Orleans. But we got to refrain from their business practices.
I think business practices of any entity are relevant. I think the health impacts of any entity are relevant. Royal Farms fabled chicken is, from my understand, from my friends, are fried in a particularly deleterious manner to the consumers of their chicken products.
Okay.
And all such considerations I would urge the board to consider if they are relevant. And I would be happy to join with the board in chastising any court review of a decision the board would make that would for existing prerogatives of the process.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Orleans. Okay. Okay. Now, Mr. Nelson, it's not your turn yet. It's Mr. Haller's, but I know you were commenting at something I think I said. Can you unmute him? Did you want to say something quick before I go to Mr. Haller?
No, Madam Chair, I have nothing further.
Okay.
At this time.
Okay. So, Mr. Haller.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for giving me the opportunity to speak again. I do want to comment on a couple of things.
Let me stop you for a second. I want to explain what's going to go on now, because in accordance with our rules of procedure, you as the applicant have the right to go next. Then Mr. Nelson has the right to respond in terms of sir rebuttal, and as does Mr. Pounds. And then the board asks any questions of anyone. You close it out, and that's what happens. And then we go next. Then the board votes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. When will we hear from our staff?
Oh, we can ask questions of anyone that we want to. Anyone that we want. Mr. Haller gets the opportunity to go now, and he may want to put his transportation expert on, and then we can turn to, I don't know who our transportation expert is on ours. Okay, Mr. Masog, okay. All right, so, well, Mr. Haller has the right to go first, and that may include his transportation, Mr. Guckert. And then if you want further, if you have further questions for our staff, which I believe is Mr. Masog, then we can have him respond as well. Okay, Mr. Haller.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief. First of all, I just want to respond very briefly to some of the comments that Ms. Grover made. She suggests that that the board has the obligation as part of approval of a detailed site plan to cull through every master plan and look for every line of a master plan and find conformance with every line of a master plan. But the board is well aware that that's not the case. There is no requirement in a detailed site plan to find conformance with the master plan. The section of the code she cited, section 27102, talks about the general purposes of the zoning ordinance being to implement master plans. While the detailed site plan is part of that process, there is no obligation or requirement on the part of the board to specifically make findings related to master plan comments. I would note she made a comment that the master plan calls for the Golden Triangle to support existing office uses, but it also supports commercial infill uses and office serving retail. And so we would submit that providing convenience use and gas in the midst of 1 million square feet of office space is an office serving a retail. And so we do not believe there's any issue with regard to the findings with regard to the planning board. We think the staff report adequately addresses the requirements and the site design guidelines and meets the criteria that the board is required to find under section 27285B. With regard to Mr. Green's comments, I'm going to ask Mr. Duckert to weigh in on them, but I do want to make the comment that what he has suggested to you is he's trying to convince the board to turn section 27274 into an off-site adequacy requirement. And that is simply not the case. But the section of the code that he cited specifically relates to vehicular and pedestrian circulation on a site. And it says that that circulation should be safe, efficient, and convenient for pedestrians and drivers. And then it talks about that the location of entrances should minimize conflict with off-site traffic. I don't think there's any question here that the location of our entrance is the only location that it can possibly be given the configuration of the site. And the location of the entrance itself does not create conflict with any off-site traffic. What Mr. Green is attempting to do is suggest to you that you should go off and do some sort of an analysis, which isn't appropriate at the time of detailed site plan because of the amount of trips that the site would generate. We don't think that's appropriate at this phase. But having said that, we understood that traffic safety was a concern at least raised by the city of Greenbelt, and I would like Mr. Duckert to specifically respond to the comments that Mr. Green made.
Okay, before you do that, I want to make sure I'm following you. So basically, you're saying that 27724C refers to the internal traffic circulation and plus the access, but not the external traffic analysis that comes under subtitle 24 at the time of preliminary plan of subdivision.
That's correct, and it is 274, not 724.
Oh, okay, so it's 274. Okay, went back to that. Okay. And then 274C. Okay, and then the other part of it was, as Ms. Grover indicated, well, you know what? I'll come back to that later. Don't worry about it. I'll come back to that later. All right, so you want to put Mr. Duckert on?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Good afternoon again, Planning Board. As you painfully indicated, Chairwoman, for decades I have been working on projects in Prince George's County, decades. And throughout that time, we have obviously, I personally have been involved in projects in and around the Golden Triangle, in and around Greenbelt, on and on and on again. While occasionally there may be a blockage of Capitol Drive at Walker, frequently, as testified to, is not something that I, over decades, have seen. I would expect that planning staff may find frequently blocked to be a bit overstated. Number two, I'm at a loss as to why the traffic volumes that were given are well beyond that which the staff has testified to or put in their report and that we concur with. I just don't understand, under the new guidelines for ITE that the planning staff has adopted, I'm not sure why there's such a big difference between Larry Green's volumes and those that are in the staff report. Finally, the issue of queuing on the distance between the site access on Capitol Drive and 193 certainly is something to look at. But when you start to use appropriate traffic volumes and appropriate trip distribution, which we said were 70% right in, right out because it is a convenience store, and 30% left in, left out, you need to continue to understand that there is an option to continue west on Capitol Drive for a few hundred feet, make a left and go out of the traffic signal. That's the purpose of the traffic signal, to provide safe and efficient movement. This is not just about this site. This is about the cars that are traveling along Capitol Drive that are from Capitol Cadillac or the adjacent restaurant use. If they feel that they cannot make safely a left turn out of Capitol Drive at 193, they can do so safely at the traffic signal. Remember, please, that traffic signal, and I'm not sure Mr. Green's counts were in 2018. We conducted counts in 2020, this fall, 2020 counts this fall. That intersection is still operating level service A. While there may be some queuing, occasionally, not frequently, occasionally, the queuing clears with the traffic signal because it's operating level service A. And so, in my opinion, this off-site traffic queuing issue really is not going to exist because the volumes are dramatically less than what was testified to, and there's an alternative to going out at Capitol Drive at 193. Vinny.
Thank
Judge,
you.
I just have a question for Mr. Gucker.
Okay.
And so, when did you do your measurements of the traffic?
Last week, October 20.
Okay, so I have a question just for what effect, if any, does the pandemic have?
We have to add we've got to multiply those volumes by 1.04, which is the approved rate that the Planning Commission uses. We did that, and we're still well within level service A.
Okay, thank you.
So let me ask you this, because I remember this came before the board for approval for traffic analysis during this unusual pandemic. So obviously that the pandemic definitely affects the traffic flow. We know that, and so that's why you're using this formula. But it would be next to impossible to go from point A to something like point E or F at this juncture, which would
Absolutely
be the failing.
Correct.
Failing. Okay. All right. And you don't, and it's not done at site plan stage. But anyway, my question then. Well, let me see if anyone else has questions of Mr. Guckert at this time. Commissioner, Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Washington?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Dorner?
No questions.
You know, I still have to get this who you are down. Okay, Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions.
Okay. Let's turn to Mr. Masog for follow-up. I know you had Commissioner Washington definitely wanted to hear from our own transportation expert.
Hi, this is Tom Masog, Transportation Planning Section.
Hello, Mr. Masog.
I guess I'd just like to start taking questions if folks have questions.
Mr. Mesa, this is Commissioner Washington. I would just really appreciate your input. You've heard two different pieces of testimony with regards to transportation circulation. So I would like both from Mr. Green as well as Mr. Gurker, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but I would just welcome your perspective based on what you've heard.
Yes, my perspective is that the Capitol Drive and 193 intersection is hardly used by the public out there today. the only thing that really uses Capitol Drive to any degree is the existing auto dealership. Second of all, we are aware that the 193 and Walker Drive intersection operates at level of service A. It has operated that way for some time. And while there may be occasional queuing that goes back past Capitol Drive on Walker Drive, it would be typical of those queues at that level of service to clear the intersection and thereby allowing folks from Capitol Drive to be able to turn onto Walker Drive safely.
Mr. Mesa, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Green and Mr. Guckert have two different impressions, and I'm told, I guess you all do, our own transportation do, in terms of how many people will be exiting this site and turning eastbound on 193. So he said basically right now we have 4,000 a.m. and 4,600 p.m. peak hour traffic trips in and out on Walker Drive, I guess, and then 619 on that road right there. On 193. And then at 6:19 a.m. and 5:35 p.m. enter in and out of that site that are site specific. And then of that, 1:24 a.m. and 1:61 p.m. are headed eastbound on 193. Mr. Guckert seemed to indicate that it's fewer than that turning eastbound, and most of them will be going westbound.
In a typical traffic study, we would show the turning movements for the trips that are original to the site, in other words, going into the site specifically for that purpose, and pass-by trips that happen to already be on Greenbelt Road. And so that may account for the discrepancy.
Okay. Can anybody answer this question for me? I've heard, I guess it was Mr. Green and a couple other people refer to the hotels on this site, and I know there's a hotel, but I didn't realize there are several. There are a couple of hotels. How many hotels are there?
There are several.
Okay. Really? Okay. How many?
I believe there are 3.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you. So, Commissioner Washington, do you have additional questions of Mr. Mesag?
No, I do not, and thank you, Mr. Mesag.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so how about this? Let me double check. We need to get to Mr. Pounds as well. And Mr. Pounds, I understand the mayor may have logged on. Mayor Byrd, are you on? We're gonna look for his name.
And I'm looking also, but I think we have outlined.
Okay.
Pretty much, we already outlined the city's position, but I'll let the mayor speak also. I don't see his initials in looking.
Okay, I don't see him either. Okay.
But no, I think we have outlined the position of the city. We don't have any further.
We do have an unknown person there. Do you think that's the mayor? Can you unmute that number? Who's that?
There's a caller 13.
Can we check and see who that is for a second? Caller 13. Mm-hmm. Mayor Byrd, are you on? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, can you unmute? But we do have a couple of just phone calls with no name.
Unknown just left.
An unknown left. Okay, got it. Okay, all right. With that, okay. So, does the board have any questions of anyone? And then, Mr. Nelson, you get to say something, and then Mr. Haller gets to close out.
Madam Chair, it's Adam Bossi from the Urban Design Section. If I may interrupt with a quick correction.
You can. Okay.
Earlier in the discussion, I did state that the staff report for this case was published, I believe it was on September 10th for the original hearing scheduled for the 24th, and that was an error. Mr. Hunt was correct in noting that the staff report did publish 2 weeks before the October 15th hearing.
Okay.
So I did just want to get that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bassi. Okay. Let's go to Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. I'll respond to a point made by the applicant's traffic planner. He raised a question about the discrepancy in the traffic counts that our traffic engineer, Mr. Green, relied on. And then Mr. Masog alluded to this issue when he talked about one possible explanation for the discrepancy was all of the traffic or the pass-by traffic. And the point that Mr. Masog was making was that if we're looking at the effect, if we were doing an adequate facilities analysis for a preliminary plan, we would subtract from the traffic count the pass-by traffic. In other words, the traffic that was already on the road system that stopped by to use this facility. We're all familiar with that concept. What Mr. Green was saying was that when we're looking at the site design requirement for the impact on the access to the off-site, you have to look at all of the traffic. You don't subtract the pass-by traffic because all the traffic will either be entering the facility and exiting the facility. And that is the explanation for the discrepancy between the low number that Mr. Guckert used and the correct number that Mr. Green used. So I would like just to make that clarification. And if the board wanted to hear from Mr. Green on that point, he'd be, I'd have no objection to the board asking for his testimony on that subject, but I think I've fairly characterized it.
Okay.
That's the only point I have with respect to traffic. With respect to Mr. Haller's point on the sector plan, this is a classical argument. Does the sector plan comply? Developers say, no, it doesn't. The community wants the conformance to the law, says it does. We believe that the zoning ordinance provisions that we cited mandate that this project conform with the sector plan, and we believe unequivocally that it fails to conform for the reasons articulated by our land planner, Ms. Grover. So for all those reasons, on behalf of my citizen clients, I urge the planning board to disapprove this application. It's the wrong project for the wrong location. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Haller.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I do want to close out with a few comments. First of all, while Mr. Nelson refers to his clients as citizen clients, as he mentioned, they're competitors within the market, and the board is absolutely correct that suppression of competition is not appropriate tool to use in zoning law and does not have any applicability. I do want to note, and Ms. Walker submitted a chart into the record listing a number of gas stations in the corridor, but I do want to note that if you go back and do a very simple search through SDAT records, what you find is that the most recently constructed gas station within the corridor of all the stations that she cited was in 1982, which is almost 40 years ago. There was one station that was originally constructed in 1965, the U.S. Fuel gas station that was reconstructed in 91. But most of those gas stations go back literally decades. What this facility that is being proposed on this site is not the same as what is located within the corridor. It is a modern, well-run, well-designed facility that provides multiple levels of services that would be a great complement as the final piece of the Golden Triangle development. And that is the reason why there is an interest in wanting to go to this location, because there really is nothing within the corridor that was cited that is anywhere close to this type of use. I would also, the chairman indicated some interest in us responding to the conditions asked for by the city of Greenbelt. And I did want to comment on that because the applicant made an exceptional effort to try to work with the city of Greenbelt to address the concerns of the city of Greenbelt and to seek the support of the city of Greenbelt. We had numerous conversations with staff. I've outlined in my supplemental justification statement the many meetings that we had with the city of Greenbelt. And we did work on a number of potential conditions, many of which are way above and beyond what the code can require the applicant to do. To the point where we had even proposed to enter into an agreement with the city that would give the city control over a future site plan for the second building of this site. But the city rejected those proposals. And as a result of that, we have gone through the conditions that we proposed, and we have incorporated a number of them into our proposed conditions. And so, as staff indicated, there were a number of conditions that we had proposed to the planning board that are now incorporated, 5 of those conditions. And there are a couple of other conditions which we certainly do not have any objection to having incorporated into the planning board's recommendation should the planning board feel them appropriate. For example, one of the conditions that we had discussed with the city was the provision of infrastructure for 2 electric car charging stations. Royal Farms has an existing program with electric car manufacturers, including Tesla. And where there is a need for such stations, where they see a need for such stations, they will install them. And so we had a conversation about installing the infrastructure so that if it was determined that the need exists here, it would facilitate the addition of electric car charging stations. So proposed city condition 5, we would not object to if the city were to incorporate into their recommendation. And in addition, we had also discussed, one of the council members had raised the question about providing a specific area as a walking area on the site, and we had suggested a location where we could provide that. And that would be city's condition number 9, and we wouldn't have any objection to that condition also being incorporated into the planning board's recommendation, should they desire to do so. There was also reference earlier to bicycle facilities. There are bicycle racks proposed for both the proposed buildings. There are 2 racks for each of the buildings, and so we have provided for that. We did have a conversation with the city about there are bike lanes on Maryland 193. The city expressed some interest in possibly putting bike lanes onto Capitol Drive, which is a city street. We had indicated to them that while this project is not required to conform with the BPIS requirements, which the planning board is aware of, that if it were subject to those requirements, we would be subject to about a $3,300 payment. And we felt that, and we actually proffered to the city that that payment would be better used by them as part of a bike lane program, as opposed to how far that small amount of money would be able to go relative to a larger project. And we did proffer that to the city, but the city indicated that they would need much more money than that to be willing to consider it. And that is way beyond any statutory obligation that we would have. So as I say, we made a number of proposals to the city that we felt were in response to their concerns, but the city rejected them. And what we think the ones that we've proposed are directly related to statutory obligations or requirements, or just make for good site design. And we would ask the planning board to accept those proffers. The one I did mention in the beginning of my presentation that we had one minor revision to the staff's conditions, proposed new conditions.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Before you move on to that, could you please comment on Greenbelt's conditions number 4 and 7? I believe those were, our staff indicated that they would support those, but you did not address either of them.
Oh, well, so, condition number
Because-
4, staff, city condition number 4 regarding lighting, staff has incorporated
It's in
into
there,
their
yeah.
staff reports, condition 6, and we are supportive of that. And, are fully willing to accept that condition.
You said 4 and 6? Or just 4?
4
Yes, 7.
And 7, yeah.
Condition 7.
Yeah. And you said you're willing to go with 9 also?
Yes.
Okay.
9, yes.
So now you got 1, 3.
I'm sorry. If I could just get my question answered first,
Okay.
I'll yield the floor.
Okay.
I'm clear on 4, and number 7, Mr. Howard.
And 7 is the one that I was going to propose a modification to. So, staff has recommended as their condition 7, city's condition 7, that the proposed Royal Farms would be constructed in accordance with their sustainable construction practices. We had provided to the city staff a copy of Royal Farms' sustainable construction practices. I do not believe that it is part of this record. And so that condition doesn't have as much meaning if it is not in the, if those are not in the record. So what I would propose that we do is to revise condition 7 to state that prior to certification, the applicant shall submit a copy of Royal Farms sustainable construction practices, and that the proposed Royal Farms shall be constructed in accordance with those sustainable construction practices. Just to make sure that those, a copy of those practices are included into the file of this case, so that it's clear as to what requirement is being requested by the planning board.
So let me make sure. Let me ask our staff about that. And if so, if the motion does go forward, then it would be as read into the record by Mr. Haller. And assuming that our board goes along with that, and assuming that Mr. Bassi, are you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are.
Okay. Commissioner Washington, you have other questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So basically, we have already incorporated, we're okay with City of Greenbelt's conditions 1, 3, 4, 6, 7 as modified, 9 you're proffering today, and 11.
No, I think that it's 1, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, 5. Okay, I thought it was 5. Okay.
7, 9, and 11.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Okay, got it.
You're already incorporated in staff's conditions.
Right.
So.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I have one question, Madam Chair.
Uh-huh.
Commissioner Giraldo, just to Mr. Haller. Mr. Haller, I appreciate the applicant putting up the bicycle racks. Do you think you guys could make a proffer that they put one of those repair facilities right there, included with the bicycle racks?
Yes, I'm sure that we can do that as well. We can add that to the condition.
Okay.
Okay,
So let me
great,
say for the record, the applicant is proffering that. We're not asking the applicant to proffer because that is no longer a proffer. But, okay. Okay, but the applicant is proffering that at this juncture. Okay. All right, so let me do okay, were you finished, Mr. Haller, or not yet?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, so let me say where we are. We've heard this. This has been a long case. We've heard from every citizen. We've heard from all sides. We've heard from we did rebuttal and surrebuttal, and we have now just concluded with summation. So I just want to go ahead because we need to get to a vote. And so let me see if the board doesn't have any questions of anyone. Is there a motion?
Well, may I interrupt for one moment, Mason Nelson?
Yes. No. What? Okay. If you go, you've had summation. What do you need?
I think
You've
the
had
mayor, I don't.
Okay, but we're at summation at this point. Okay. I called on the mayor repeatedly, huh? Okay.
I thought the mayor had signed on, that's all.
Okay, but I called on the mayor. Oh, there he is. I called on him repeatedly. I hate to violate our rules in terms of, we've called on every citizen. We've called on the mayor. We've called on the city of Greenbelt. We called on the other representatives from Greenbelt. We called on Greenbelt's attorney, Mayor Byrd. If you've got something succinctly, but then once you finish, then the applicant gets to go again in terms of summation, because summation is always last. Mayor Byrd.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and members of the board. I will be very brief and succinct as requested. I just wanted to make sure that I went on record prior to this vote, letting you know that I am opposed to this project, and I support the comments that have been offered by our city planning staff, and I thank with gratitude Ms. Ruby for sharing that. But in short, this is really about the people. And I think, as you guys may have heard by now, sorry I wasn't able to get on a little earlier, those concerns are numerous, and those concerns among many of our residents are intense. So for me, representing the people of Greenbelt, I wanted to make sure I went on record prior to any vote taking place at this level to share that thought. But I thank you guys for your consideration, and I appreciate your hard work.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Byrd. So with that, our applicant gets to go again for summation. If you have anything to add, hopefully what you said will suffice. Okay. Nothing to add? Okay. We need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff as outlined in staff's report, in addition to the amended findings as outlined in staff's memo dated October 22nd, and approve DSP-19045 and TCP2-117-05-01, along with the associated conditions as outlined in staff's report and as further amended by staff's memo dated October 22nd, 2020. In addition to that, staff's new condition 7, as outlined in the October 22nd memo, shall be revised as read into the record by Mr. Haller, the applicant, in addition to an applicant proffered condition related to repair station for bicycles. And I would ask staff to ensure that the resolution reflects the appropriate wording to accommodate that. In addition to the resolution incorporating the City of Greenbelt's conditions number, and this would be based on their memo dated October the 12th, conditions 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And I would just note that some of the Greenbelt conditions have already been incorporated by staff into their revised conditions.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, and item 7, as you from the City of Greenbelt's letter, as you already indicated, is modified as indicated, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I said it based on staff memo.
Right. That's right. The same thing. Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Under discussion, I would want to thank everyone for participating. I'm going to add the additional finding that a couple of different additional findings. I think this does, and this is not in any way in conflict with the plans for for that Golden Triangle area. Even as Ms. Grover indicated, she said obviously it should be predominantly non-retail uses there, predominantly, but not solely retail non-retail uses. So this can benefit and support those non-retail commercial uses that are there at that site. So that's number 1. So I do think it meets that criteria, and I do think it meets the criteria of section 27-285B as the required finding for approval of a detailed site plan. I am so pleased that I know that the City of Greenbelt was split 4-3 on this, but there were many conditions proffered in the event that this goes forward, and I am very pleased at least that the applicant and staff has incorporated the number of these. Actually, I think it's close to the majority of these, if not the majority. So anyway, or half of them at least, which is good. And I'd like, to commend the applicant and the city on that for working very, very hard on that. The other comment I needed to make, because the mayor wasn't on before, I so appreciate, I think all of us appreciate the letter and the feedback that we got from the city of Greenbelt. Some of the issues that were raised in there about traffic are not, and the fact that it's not the highest and best use for the subject site, and regarding economic demand and things of that nature, are not criteria that we are legally allowed to consider. So and our decisions have to conform to the parameters as established by the council legislation, state legislation, and as interpreted by all of the courts. Those are things that we cannot consider at a detailed site plan stage, but we've had a nice, robust discussion, and there have been some concessions made in terms of the access and safety. So I just wanted to add all of those things to the findings, if we can. And also that, while I just wanted to say this, while we must adhere to the legal parameters. We are not the legislative body, and we are not the judicial body that establishes these rules and regulations. We just got to follow them. And yes, laws do need to be challenged from time to time, Mr. Orleans, and thankfully they have been, because some people wouldn't even be able to live in Greenbelt. Let's start right there. But laws have changed, and many for the better, not all for the better, but many for the better. But they have to be addressed in the right forum. So with that, is there any additional discussion? I'll call for the vote. Madam Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, thank you for reiterating what we should consider, and I vote aye.
Okay, Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye. I want to thank Commissioner Washington for an excellent summary of the motion.
As always, thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. And Mr. Mayor, we're sorry you didn't get on earlier, but I was pleased to hear from you at the very end as well. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
With that, we're going to go to item 9. And before I go to item 9, I think I'm going to turn to Mr. Hunt.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Well, before that, Madam Vice Chair, you may or may not wish to do this. Did you make your comment that you wanted to make before, or are you forfeiting that?
Forfeiting that.
Okay. Okay. All right, Mr. Hunt, you're on.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, James Hunt with the Development Review Division. Excuse me. I just want to take a quick opportunity to introduce to the planning board Mrs. Shubha Punasi. She's a planner coordinator with the Long Range Planning section of the Community Planning Division. She comes to us as a promotional hire from Montgomery Parks, where she's working as a senior planner since September 2017. She brings over 10 years of combined experience in urban planning and design, architectural design, and construction in both the public and private sectors, including leading and assisting with countywide park planning efforts, design guidelines, general plan updates, strategic plans, large-scale neighborhood campus master planning, and a high-rise architectural design and construction. Shubha actually earned her Master of Urban and Regional Planning and a graduate certificate in Economic Development from Virginia Tech. She received her Bachelor's of Architecture from Manit, Bhopal, India. Shubha enjoys volunteering during her spare time and had been actively involved as a member of various professional organizations, task forces, and committees throughout the organization, industry, state, and the nation. Everyone, please join me in welcoming to the planning board Ms. Shubha Punasi.
Okay, we need to show our planning board members. This is us saying welcome, Ms. Punasi, welcome. And she got right with the program too. I had the pleasure of seeing her as our planning director introduced our wonderful cadre of new employees here. They're just a wonderful cadre. We're so glad to see everyone. And good job in poaching from Montgomery County. So welcome over to this side. Ms. Punasi, you are on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, James and Madam Chair. I'm super excited to actually do my first presentation to the Planning Board today. And I just wanted to mention that, Madam Chair, I have actually met you in person also during one of the Commission's holiday parties.
And that's right. You know what? You have an amazing voice. Karaoke, okay. That's right.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And I'm actually trying to stay with the Halloween spirit and rocking it here. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time.
Can you work on Mr. Rao? Because he doesn't have it. Okay.
Okay. As formally, I would like to say good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for actually allowing me to present the project today. For the record, my name is Shubha Punase, Planner Coordinator with the Long Range Planning Section of the Community Planning Division and the Project Manager for the Adelphi Road, University of Maryland Global Campus, University of Maryland Purple Line Station Area Sector Plan. Item number 9, this particular item, this afternoon agenda is a staff's request for your approval to initiate a new sector plan and a sectional map amendment for the Adelphi Road, University of Maryland Global Campus, UMGC, University of Maryland, UMD, Purple Line Station Area, an endorsement of the plan's goals, concepts, guidelines, and public participation program. Staff further request a 4-month extension of the time frame to prepare the preliminary sector plan and your permission to transmit all of the above to the District Council. This information is contained within materials for this morning's meeting. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation of the plan and proposed schedule. Would you like me to proceed with the PowerPoint?
Yeah, you said it's brief, so we're going to let you go ahead. It's your first case. So let's go. Here you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. The Adelphi Road UMGC UMD Purple Line Station Area Sector Plan Area is approximately 103 acres located within Planning Area 65 and 66, including portions of the City of Hartsville and the City of College Park within Council Managed Districts 2 and 3. The project will cover areas within Plan 2035 established communities policy area, the UMD West Campus Center, and the portions of the half-mile radius around the UMD Center Campus Center. More information about the planning context of this project may be found could be found in Appendix 1 of the Goals, Concepts, Guidelines, and Public Participation Program document provided to you. This sector plan area is generally located south and east of Adelphi Road sector plan area and consists station area and consists largely of undeveloped or institutional properties. These project boundaries exclude existing surrounding single-family detached residential neighborhoods. This particular map you see here will provide you more information about the location. There are no major highways in the plan area. Connections to the major thoroughfares are made mainly via Maryland 193, that's University Boulevard, and Adelphi Road. Regional major destinations outside the plan area include I-95, I-495, the Capitol Beltway to the north, US 1 Baltimore Avenue and the Gateway Arts District to the east, Prince George's Plaza and the District of Columbia to the south, and Tacoma-Langley Crossroads, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, and other areas of Montgomery County to the west. Next slide, please. Thank you. The primary goals of the sector plan are to work with the community stakeholders, elected officials, and other interested parties to create a consensus vision for the future of the sector plan area that meets the needs of local residents while also advancing countywide goals for sound land use, quality of life, transportation, environmental protection, and economic development. This new sector plan will implement Plan 2035 by setting goals for sustainable growth and preservation develop policies that facilitate implementation of these goals, and identify specific, realistic, and achievable strategies and actions that bring the vision to fruition. Next slide, please. This particular slide summarizes the proposed schedule for this project. So we are in October and we are planning to finish the existing conditions analysis by the end of winter 2021. But in summer we plan to do the scenario planning for the sector plan area, and then November 2021 would be our scheduled time for the public release of the staff draft plan, and followed by the joint public hearing in January 2022, the planning board adoption in April 2022, and council's approval of amendment in June 2022, and finally the approval with second joint public hearing in if we have to consider that. That also is included in our schedule, and it will be completed by October 2022. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. For next steps, we are hoping for planning board's approval to initiate the sector plan, followed by planning board's transmittal of the goals, concepts, and guidelines and public participation program to county council. That would be followed by the district council's initiation, and then council's approval of the goals, concepts, and guidelines and public participation programs after that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here is some additional information that includes a project website link, project email, and contact information of myself and my deputy project manager of this project, Michael Calamise. And thank you so much again for this opportunity to present. We would like to know if you have any questions.
Okay, let's see if we got any questions from Ms. Prunasi, who got right in there and was a good sport. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, but welcome. Great job.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for
Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions. Thank you and welcome aboard.
Commissioner Washington?
Thank you.
Okay.
No questions, and welcome also, Ms. Panase. Great job.
Commissioner Dorner?
Welcome. Just quick question on the sector plan area for what it includes. Because it's a little bit hard to tell on that slide. I think the part that's, can you go back to that slide, the sector plan slide as the map?
Okay.
Yeah, that in sort of the middle, the little kind of rectangle that goes down, is that to include St. Mark's
almost there.
Catholic Church?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's included. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So that's it for the questions. Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of staff and approve the initiation as well as approve the 4-month extension to prepare a sector plan and sectional map amendment for the Adelphi Road Purple Line Station area, and also approve transmittal to District Council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Vice Chair?
Aye.
Commissioner Washington?
Aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it 5-0, so very well done, Ms. Punase. And then, and Mr. Rowe, we're gonna work on you getting with the program. Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Punase,
Happy Halloween.
welcome.
Everyone.
You know what? We are one commission, but you're gonna love it over here, okay? Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Definitely, I'm enjoying it.
Good. Now, I have a critical question for Mr. Hunt. Mr. Hunt, is there any additional business to come before the planning board today?
There are no additional items before the planning board today. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. I wish everyone a happy and safe Halloween. And look, things are getting worse out here. So please take really good care of yourselves. I miss you all so much, tremendously. But good job, everyone. Planning board is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.